My brother, 18, has been poisoning my girlfriend, 24, for the past 3 years. She has always been allergic to lactose very severely to the point where if she had any traces in her food she would basically shit herself on the spot ever since she was a kid. My brother and I have always been on good terms and always hanged out together until 3 years ago when I met my girlfriend. He started getting more distant and mean towards me, talking about how she's ruining our broship and taking me away from our family and him. I told him he was crazy and didn't think too much of it until recently. Going back to 3 years ago when I introduced Katie to my parents, he was livid. I moved out about 6 months later because I was tired of his constant bitching about her coming over to sleep and hang out. Ever since then we would have family diners at my parents' every month on Sundays. My family is Italian, so we eat a lot of pasta and sauce. Relevant. My parents always made 2 separate meals ever since they met her, one with no milk, lactose-free milk for Katie and one for the rest of us. She never had issues unless there was an accidental cross-contamination, which happened every so often. The problem was, every month, at those dinners she was getting sick to the point of rushing to the bathroom and having excoriating diarrhea for an hour with severe cramps. Every single time. At one point I started refusing to go, and my parents kept insisting, so I gave it another try. It was fine for a few months and then it started yet again. This goes on off for 2.5 years. I got really mad last week and got up in the middle of dinner and said to my parents, "Something is up and someone is messing with Katie's food." My parents go quiet and ask me why I would say that. My brother turns rather pale and stops smiling. I knew it was him. I confronted him and he started crying, saying he felt like he had to get payback at her for stealing away his big brother, that it wasn't fair. He said he was adding milk to the batch made for her and he had no regrets. I was absolutely livid. Katie was as well. She excused herself and asked me to drive her back to our place. It's been 3 months and she cut contact with my parents. Katie refuses to talk to them anymore because they should have had my brother in check and given him a worse punishment. He literally got a smack behind the head and that was it, and said she can't believe I didn't stop talking to them as well. My parents, on the other hand, are mad that we let this little incident break our relationships. My girlfriend says if I keep contacting them and insisting she forgives my brother she's going to leave me. I love this girl to death, we've got plans to buy a house eventually and have kids. On the other hand, I love my parents too, but I can't have both anymore. What should I do? TLDR, my brother was adding milk to the pasta dishes when my girlfriend, who is lactose intolerant, came over to get her sick as revenge for ruining my relationship with him. Top comments. Commenter 1. Your brother is an evil, selfish, petty little fuck and you should distance yourself from him until he grows the fuck up. You didn't ruin your broship with him. He did. Commenter 2. Right. I would point out to the brother exactly how his actions ruined their broship, and hell, because of his actions their relationship will never be the same. Even if he does choose to forgive him and continue having a relationship, the trust is obliterated, and I would make sure to point out to him that it is a big if in regards to continuing the relationship. Commenter 3. My girlfriend says if I keep contacting them and insisting she forgives my brother she's going to leave me. I don't blame her. Why would she want to forgive or speak to people who would sweep your brother's horrible behavior under the rug? Your parents had to know he was doing it, that's why they asked why you thought that instead of immediately denying it. She has a choice, either she stays away from them entirely or she bounces. Update. TLDR, my brother was adding milk to the sauce in the pasta dishes and making my girlfriend have severe allergic reactions. I've read over 200 comments from you guys and it just validated my mind that my family is fucked up. I contacted my mom and confronted her about why she would defend my idiotic brother and she basically said he was young and stupid. I told her a few of your comments and that Katie could press charges and she broke down crying, saying he won't do it again. Hell no he won't, because I told her I decided to cut them off for good. Katie was actually relieved when I told her I was on her side and cut them off. Basically told me she was going to dump me for being an idiot who couldn't support his girlfriend of 3 years when she was basically being tortured for fun. I'm just glad she didn't and that we are getting through this together. Thank you guys for every comment, even the ones calling me out for being an idiot trying to make Katie forgive my brother for the horrible things he did. When you're faced with this kind of dilemma and you've been close to your family for over 20 years you get blindsided. So me and Katie cut them out starting today and we plan to move to the USA next year. We always wanted to live there, and finally be far away from them. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. A happy ending was never in the works, but you managed to find the best possible outcome. Your brother really fucked you, your girl, and your family over. Your parents' position is ridiculous. I could understand maybe being forgiving if he had done it once at 15. But he's been doing it for fucking years. He's seen the results of how sick she got. He did it most recently at 18. That's an adult. Fuck him. I'm glad you were able to come to this conclusion before your relationship ended over it. I think you made the right call. Reply. The comments really hit me hard. Sometimes seeing it from someone else's perspective really opens up your eyes. Stories number 2. I regret my marriage and hate being a mom. I need to say this because it feels so heavy on me. I've been hating everyone and feeling irritated, even when my neighbors talk to me. I try to be nice, but it's hard. I'm 32F, my husband is 37M, and we have twin sons 8 years and a daughter 3 years. When I look at myself in the mirror, I feel so ugly. I'm not even fat. I work out regularly and take beauty supplements and herbal teas. I also get monthly hair care, facials, manicures, and pedicures, but none of it helps me feel better. It feels like I'm trying so hard but still look bad and ugly. I used to be a model from 14 to 22 years before I got married at 23 and had kids. When I see beautiful models in magazines or online, especially childless ones thriving in their careers, I feel so jealous. Sometimes, I regret getting married and wonder how different my life would have been if I hadn't. I even look at my old modeling photos in magazines, which I keep in my closet, and feel like a loser now. My kids stress me out so much. The twins are so naughty and never listen to me, only to their dad because he's stricter. On weekends, when I ask them to be quiet so I can nap, they'll come into the room, play loudly with their toys, or turn the TV volume up. They'll eat snacks but throw the wrappers on the floor, making the house look dirty and making me so annoyed. I like it when they're at school. My 3 years is so clingy. She won't even poop without me there and won't let her dad help her with anything, or bathing when I send her to daycare. She bites other kids or pulls their hair, even though she doesn't act like that at home. I always get calls from the daycare staff about her behavior. I have to clean the house and cooks food for them as I want them to eat healthy. And my husband constantly wants sex. When I say no, he gets angry and says it's my duty to take care of his needs as he work hard. The other day, he forced to have sex and when I said no, I don't want to do, he started accusing me of cheating, saying I'm tired of him because I want another man. We had an argument and he even threatened me if I ever cheated on him. At night, he's always touchy, trying to put his hands under my nightdress, and it's so annoying. I told him I wanted to stay with my parents for a week to get some space from him and the kids, but he got angry and said no when I tried to force him. He got even angrier and told me to shut up and not piss him off more. I feel so suffocated. The kids are always crying or fighting over toothbrush colors or water bottles and every other small things. My 3 years is constantly clinging to me and wants my attention all the time. I'm so tired. I've tried drinking herbal teas to relax, but nothing helps. I know people might judge me for feeling this way, but I just feel so lost and heavy. What can I do to feel better? I'm just hating them right now. Comments. Commenter 1. You need support now. Can you invite your mother or older sister to come and help with the house and kids for a few weeks? Reply. I only have an older brother, but he's a single dad with his own kids, so I can't ask him for help. I also can't ask his girlfriend. My mom is old and not healthy enough to handle the twins, who are always loud and playing, or my 3 years, who cries whenever I'm not around. It's really hard managing everything alone. I asked my husband if we could hire a babysitter for weekends, but he said no. He told me, you're home all day, you can take care of our own kids, and he doesn't want anyone else in the house. Commenter 2, I'm a guy, and I can't imagine ever sexually abusing my own wife. Yes, you were. Raising kids is very tough on both parents, and what you're going through with them sounds very typical, but that gives your husband zero justification to physically and verbally abuse you. Don't put up with it. You have much more serious problems than the regular challenges that couples face while raising kids. Reply, that's nice, you're a good man. It's really tough raising kids, when they're all under 10. I try to be gentle with them, but they don't always listen. Sometimes I just don't know what to do. I watch parenting tips on YouTube and try to use them, but it's hard when they don't listen. I don't want to yell at them, but I feel lost sometimes. Update. I don't know how, but someone shared my post online, and my husband saw it on FB. He saw everything related to us and immediately asked if I had written and posted it. I tried to deny it, but he didn't believe me. He got really angry, accusing me of being overdramatic and seeking attention from strangers. He shouted, asking if I was happy now that people were calling him abusive and telling me to divorce him. He even accused me of liking attention from men and demanded to know how many desperate nice guy DMs I had gotten. When I tried to explain myself and stop him, he got even angrier. He broke my phone, iPad, and Mac. Things got much worse from there, but I can't bring myself to share the details. It's too overwhelming and graphic. That night, after everything, he locked me in the guest bedroom. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, he apologized while applying arnica cream on my bruises and said we could work things out, even try therapy, and promised to control his anger. He said he will come home early from work so we could spend time together. The twins didn't have school since it was Saturday. When he left for work, I took the kids, got a taxi, and went to my parents' house, which is 2.5 hours away. When I arrived, I told my parents everything. My mom, who isn't in the best health, broke down crying. My dad was furious. He scolded me for not telling them sooner and called me an idiot for staying in that situation. My dad called my husband, and they had a huge argument on the phone. I didn't know my mom had also called my husband's parents. They showed up at my parents' house that same day, and my husband came shortly after. My brother also arrived during all of this. Things got much worse. My dad and brother were ready to fight my husband, but my in-laws and mom stopped them. My dad told me to report him to the police, but my in-laws begged me not to, saying it would ruin the kid's future if he got arrested. They told me to forgive him and to go couples therapy, and they even said they will help with the kids. But my dad told me that if I didn't want to report him, I had to divorce him. I've decided to move forward with the divorce because I can't stay in this situation anymore. My husband was furious and told me I will regret it and would pay for it. He even tried to take the twins, but my dad stopped him. Before leaving, he accused me of doing this because of another man and kicked a vase near the door before he walked out. His parents apologized to me and my parents before leaving. I didn't sleep that night. It's now 6 p.m., and I'm still at my parents' house with my kids. The twins are downstairs with my parents, and my dad is trying to teach them discipline since they don't listen to me. My youngest, Isabella, is sleeping beside me as I write this from my old room, using my dad's old iPhone because I feel so drained. My dad said he would handle the divorce process because I don't have the energy to deal with it right now. I have told my friends what happened, and they're coming to see me tomorrow. This will be my last update. For those who have been DMing me, asking for updates or how I'm doing, I feel better now that I'm at my parents' house. I'll be deleting this account soon so I can focus on moving on. I've also received some hateful DMs calling me a bad wife and mom, saying I mistreat my kids, and even telling me I shouldn't have had children or that I'm narcissistic and entitled. One person even told me to unalive myself. I just want to say this, I wasn't always like this. When the twins were little, things were fine. I was happy, and I loved them deeply. But after my second child was born and as the twins grew older, things changed. My husband constantly accused me of cheating, even if I was just talking to another man. I wasn't allowed to meet my friends, and I had to handle all the cooking, cleaning, and chores alone while still being expected to work out daily to look good. Over time, I started feeling jealous of the models I saw in magazines and missing the time when I used to model. It made me feel even worse about myself, and I started hating my life and my family. As the divorce moves forward, I plan to start therapy and take parenting classes as many of you suggested. Thank you to those who has been kind to me. I didn't know where to vent or let it out in my last post and just did it here in Reddit. Comments. Commenter, I hope you do speak to police because it will be very important when it comes to custody that you have a record of abuse. I wouldn't expect the police to actually do anything, but it will be part of your court filings. At least take pictures of your bruises and any damage you can. Reply, reading all your responses, I think I'll press charges on him and seek custody of all 3 of my kids. I know I said I regret being a mom, and it's difficult for me to take care of them all on my own, but my mom has said she will help. I don't want any of his money, I just want to be far away from him. My parents are stable, and I'll try to find a job and take care of them without taking any money from him. Commenter 2, he thinks he owns you, he will use the children to hurt you more. Filing a report will make it more likely you get custody. Abusive men are extremely dangerous when they have lost control over you. They begin stalking, obsessing, scheming. Change your passwords, cancel your cards, turn off location, limit your posts, go offline, protect yourself and your kids. Hug your dad and thank him too. I don't have my personal phone right now since he broke all my things during the argument on Friday night. I'm using my dad's old phone, and he doesn't know this number. I won't let him meet the kids. The kids and I are going to continue living with my parents. They have plenty of extra room, so we'll be staying here. My dad has been really supportive, and I'm truly grateful to him. Stories number 3. AITJ for refusing to let my friend propose at my birthday party. I, 27F, recently hosted a small birthday party at a nice restaurant. It wasn't anything extravagant, just a dinner with about 15 close friends and family. I was excited because I don't usually throw big birthday celebrations, and I wanted to enjoy the night with the people I care about. A few days before the party, my friend Mark, 28M, pulled me aside and asked if he could propose to his girlfriend, Sarah, at my birthday dinner. He said it would be the perfect setting because all our friends would be there, and it would make the night extra special. I told him no. I said I was happy for him and Sarah, but this was my birthday, and I didn't want the focus shifted away from that. He looked a little disappointed but said he understood. Well, fast forward to the dinner. Everything was going great until Mark suddenly stood up, clinked his glass, and started giving a speech. At first, I thought he was going to say something about my birthday, but no. He got down on one knee and proposed to Sarah right there at my party. Sarah was overjoyed, everyone started clapping, and suddenly my birthday dinner turned into their engagement celebration. I was stunned and honestly pretty pissed, but I didn't want to make a scene. I just smiled and went along with it. Afterward, I pulled Mark aside and asked him why he did it when I had already said no. He shrugged and said, "I knew you'd understand, it was too perfect of a moment to pass up." I told him I felt disrespected, and he got defensive, saying I was being selfish because a proposal is a bigger deal than a birthday. Now some of our mutual friends are saying I should just be happy for them and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But I can't help but feel like my night was hijacked. AITJ for being upset that my friend proposed at my birthday party after I told him not to. Stories number 4. AITA for kicking out my mom's boyfriend. When I was 17 my mom came into money. She tried to keep it quiet but she paid off my dad's debts, bought him a small house, paid off her debts and paid for my sister's college and set up funds for mine. She had a boyfriend at the time and shortly after him and his son who was 7 moved into our new house. Over the next few years mom bought my sister a house after she graduated college. Her boyfriend lived with us and didn't pay anything but he did work. When I was 21 mom got diagnosed with cancer. It wasn't good. She sat me and my sister down and went over exactly how much money there was. She intended to give her current house to me and both me and my sister were left with a large sum at the end of it. She asked if I would allow her boyfriend to stay in the house with his son until he got his own place. I agreed. Before she died she told her boyfriend he would need to look for his own place but had time to save more for that journey. For the last 4 years he has continued to reside in the house with his son. I haven't minded because we get along okay. I pay all the bills but he does buy food for him and his kid. He has dated off and on and mostly kept the women out of this house which I respected him for. Until his current partner. She's been in my house 3 times and at first besides feeling a little uncomfortable I was okay with her. The last time this past weekend was the point where I lost my shit. I was making myself some lunch when she came walking downstairs. She grabbed a plate and went to grab food out of my pan. I asked her what she thought was doing. She started telling me how I should look for somewhere else to live and leeching off my dead mom's past relationship as an adult was pathetic. I hollered for my mom's old boyfriend. He came down and I told him I didn't know what he current thing thought but I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes as he mumbled something about my mom promising him the house and he was just being kind letting me stay. First that isn't remotely true. Mom pulled him and I together after she asked if he could stay to set expectations. My mom met him shortly before she won the money and told him and us girls that she had no intention of leaving him money. She did set aside a fund for his son for college when he gets there but he cannot touch it, only his son can. He has lived in this house almost 8 years without paying a dime. He should have plenty of money and if he doesn't that's on him. I told him he had 30 days to leave. I wasn't going to house someone who would lie and disrespect me in my house. He left that night with his son but his ex-wife called to tell me I am cruel and an for her son losing his house. He is here every other week. I really feel like my mom didn't expect him to still be here but my sister said she feels like I am breaking my promise to my mom and that made me feel like maybe I am the Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. The critical part here is that your mom asked you to let him stay until he got his own place and to give him time to find one. In that time, instead of looking to move somewhere else, he continued to settle into life in the house, to the point where he even started bringing a new girlfriend along. He moved on but didn't move out. Him lying to her and telling her this was his house tells you everything you need to know about his actual intentions to leave. You kicking him out wasn't abrupt. The clock had run out on your mother's kindness and your obligation to her a long time ago, and he was living there on generously borrowed time. Commenter 2. OP's mom probably expected it to be a month or 2 since he's working but has no living expenses and didn't during their relationship not 4 years. Where the hell is his money going if he can't get his own place? Commenter 3. He had at least 4 years to save before OP's mother passed away, plus the 4 years since then. He has only been paying for food and presumably his phone, car insurance, fuel etc. in that time. He should have incredibly healthy savings. Especially as he was living with his sister to save up before that. The mother probably thought that he'd take a month or two to grieve, spend a month or four looking in earnest, and be out of OP's hair within the year. If he was saving say $1,500 month while the mother was alive, rent plus utilities and council tax / local equivalent on a 2-bed house flat has to be at least that pretty much everywhere in what sounds like the US, right? That'd be 1,500 times 12 times 4 is equal to 72,000 before she passed, the same again since then, and whatever he had beforehand. Of course he could afford to move out straight away. Dude should have a good 150,000 minimum sitting in his bank account. That's most definitely, screw this, I'm off to a hotel to complain to people who I can tell a very slanted version of the story to. Money. Commenter 4. If it happened exactly how you said, you're not the asshole. If she did say he had time to save, but would need to look for his own place, that means she never imagined or wanted him staying for long. So you're breaking no promises. Did she leave him any money or assets? It's totally possible that your mother would be livid if she knew her boyfriend was still living with her son after 4 years. Reply. No, she created a fund for his son for his college, but that was the only money set aside for him or his son. It's a generous amount, enough for 4 years at a high-dollar school. Anything not used for school will be given to him on his 25th birthday. From what I believe she told me, a lawyer and accountant are in charge of those funds, not me or my sister, so I only know what she told us before she died. She was never married to or even engaged to her boyfriend. He lived with his sister and was saving for his own house when Mom met him. Him moving in with us was supposed to be temporary and allow him to save to buy his dream home, but he never left. My mom was like that, though she had a big heart, and sometimes people took advantage of that, especially after the money. She bought him a brand new truck when his car broke down, but beyond that and smaller gifts, like TV, computer, etc. for birthdays and holiday gifts, she did not leave him money. They had no joint accounts. My mom paid everything and he was supposed to be saving for a house the whole time they were together. Commenter 5. Sweetheart, you are NTA. First, I am so sorry. I'm 63 years old and lost my mom 2 years ago and my dad 8 years ago. I am not dealing with it well at all. You are the only one who knows if you're telling the truth. It seems very plausible to me. But, if he was already saving money for a house when he met your mom, then lived 4 years with her and another 4 years with you, that man is just a loser. Is there any way your dad could come stay with you the week he moves out? The first thing you need to do is change all of the locks and get yourself some sort of security system. Please don't feel bad for making him leave. It seems to me that your mom was really smart and planned things out very carefully. Being that he had already lived with her for 4 years, I agree with the commenters who said she was probably thinking a month or 2. Not years. If your sister makes any more comments, then you can tell her she's welcome to let him live with her. Again, so sorry for your loss. Please make sure you're safe and take care of yourself. Reply. Thank you so much. My mom was the sweetest person, and when I was a teenager I feel like I was a nightmare to her. I am thankful I was much better in my late teens and 20 and 21, so she got to see me mature a little before she passed. I wasn't always the best daughter, but she was always the best mom. I think part of letting him stay so long is having bonded with his son, but also I liked having someone else around who loved my mom too. There were nights I would wake up from a nightmare and end up in the kitchen and he would hear me and just come make a cup of coffee and sit and share a story about her. His son loved mom too, and some evenings we would get takeout and watch movies and joke about what commentary my mom would have had if she had seen the movie with us. My sister lives a state away, so we only really see each other once a month or so. I liked not being alone in this big house. I do have a security system and the locks have been changed. He is coming over tomorrow to get his stuff. Commenter 6. If he has stayed gone, I'm really hoping that you have changed the locks and gotten a security system. The first time I read what you wrote, I was thinking he walked out that night because he was upset. When I reread it, I realized that you were saying he moved out. Apologies for misunderstanding. Commenter 7. I ditto this comment. However, I am 53 and my mom passed last April. That leech has been taking advantage of your family long enough. You can either set the record straight with his ex and girlfriend or close the book on this chapter. But definitely know that you are NTA and your mom request has been honored. I know that she is proud of you for being as good as you have been to him and his son. Take care. Commenter 8. How did his girlfriend react when she realized he lied? I would have liked to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Reply. She sat with her arms crossed when he and I talked, but she didn't say anything else. She left with him. Update. I know the other sub is very subjective on updates, so I figured I would post it here. I do want to take a moment to address some things I saw in the comment. 1. There are trusts set up and neither me nor my sister has full access to the money left us. This was done both because my sister and I were in our early 20s when my mom died and she wanted to make sure we had some stability before we had access and to protect us from people who may try to take advantage especially while we were grieving. 2. I have a lawyer. He has already informed me legally to my area what eviction laws are and my mom's former boyfriend will be served with formal eviction papers just to cover myself even after today. So to the update. My dad came over, decided not to have my boyfriend over since he doesn't know about the money side and I wasn't trying to have the boyfriend out the situation, this morning and brought along my cousin. For easier telling I'm going to call mom's former boyfriend C. C showed up about 10 a.m. my time and talked to my dad then asked if he could have a couple of minutes alone with me. Dad nodded so my cousin and him went into the kitchen and C and I sat in the living room. I'll be honest I didn't expect it to go as it had but I am glad it did. C started with an apology. I don't remember all of the words said but the basics were he missed my mom, he has been lonely but not alone thanks to me and his son. He was sorry for what had happened that he got caught up in lust and let someone else fill his head with ideas and that he owned up to his mistakes and should have never put up with someone who would disrespect me or my mom's memory. He tried to hand me a cashier's check for $15,000. He said it wasn't much but he wanted me to know he appreciated me and living with me and that he wanted to pay back some of what he owed. I refused the check both in part because I never wanted his money but I also don't want to give any possible legal leg for him to stand on if this is somehow him trying to stay. I told him the first part and told him to put it towards a house. He told me he is living with his sister but is going to look at houses with a realtor next week. He did say his son is asking about our next hangout date and said both me and my sister are welcome to arrange time with him. After all of that my dad and cousin helped him get all the stuff out of the house that he owned, he had brought a U-Haul, and he gave me back my house keys. He apologized again and left, not what I expected. But it went really well and I feel a lot less like I let my mom down. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm just being nosy, sure, but how did the woman who thought she's getting you kicked out of your house respond to it all? Reply, no clue. At my house she just seemed smug and bitchy. I didn't ask C about her and honestly don't care. My house is nice but it's not like it's multi-million dollars or anything. Commenter 2. Had you said all that stuff in the previous post to him away from his girlfriend? Were you not there when he grabbed her to leave? Just wondering, because I assumed it was said in front of her and that's why she left so easily instead of trying to fight to make you leave. Reply, all that got said in front of her was that I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house and he could have 30 days to find new housing and she was not welcome back. That was all I said in front of her and she kept a pissy face on but didn't say anything to me and walked out with him. Stories number 5. Woman tried to get me fired from a job I don't have. It started off as a semi-understandable mistake. I was with a friend dropping off her kids at daycare. I was carrying her youngest who kept calling me Miss J, as that's what she has been taught to call me. I handed her off to her daycare teacher and turned to walk out when a woman who had been behind me tried to hand me her kid. I just ignored her because I was half asleep and focused on other things so she snapped her fingers at me and told me to hurry up and that she was late for work. It clicked that she thought I worked there. I told her, I don't work here but I think she can help you, and pointed at one of the people who did work there. This woman rolled her eyes and said, it takes 2 seconds to take my kid. I don't care if you're clocked in or not, do your damn job. I replied with, I don't work here, and turned to walk away. The lady then stomped off and I went outside to wait on my friend. My friend came out a few moments later laughing and said, you're fired, to me. I asked what she was talking about and she said that after I walked out, the lady who had been trying to get me to take her kid saw my friend and told her that I was extremely unprofessional and refused to do my job. She then demanded my friend, who also doesn't work at the daycare, fire me, or else. After thinking about it, I realized that my friend's child calling me Miss made it clear to anyone listening that I wasn't dropping off my kid. Between that and the fact that I was dressed very similar to most of the workers, I can understand thinking I work there. Until I said I don't. I don't know why she thought my friend in her pajama bottoms and oversized sweater worked there though. I also don't get the entitlement of, fire this person or else. Stories number 6. Aita for taking my kids to their dad's funeral. I'm going to jump right in because the funeral is this Friday. My ex-husband passed away last week in a car accident, very unexpectedly. The troopers came to my house, I'm his emergency contact, to break the news. The first person I called was his father, and he flew out the next day with my ex's sister. Before he flew out he asked me where we should have the service, in Texas, where we live, or back in Maryland where our families and friends all still live. I told him I felt like the service needed to be in Maryland because that was where everyone was and my ex's father, agreed. He let me know the funeral home said they might be able to do a small viewing with just family, and I agreed to doing that as long as I felt like he was in a condition he'd be okay with. I met my ex's sister and his dad at the funeral home to go over paperwork and plan the viewing. He told me all the details for the funeral back home, and we talked a bit about where my ex worked, his day-to-day life, his home, and the probate process. His father was taking care of the probate process and seemed defensive about some of his belongings. I really felt like focusing on my children was more important than arguing over small things in the home. All of that could wait, so I backed off of helping with cleaning out his home and handed all of his insurance paperwork and other information I had that would be useful to them, like contacts at his work and his electric login. We had the viewing, both of our children said goodbye to their dad, and it was very emotional. At the viewing I mentioned that a friend had paid for our tickets to fly home, as I was quickly realizing how much everything was going to cost, and I suddenly was without the financial help of their dad. I was extremely thankful for their generosity. After the viewing I didn't hear anything from his sister or dad. They didn't ask to see the kids or let me know what was going on with the process, and I was actively trying to navigate the life insurance process while grieving my ex and helping my children with their feelings. The last few days have been a blur of crying and anger for all of us. We are so heartbroken to have lost him. My ex's sister and father flew out on Friday, and around noon I got a call from his father telling me we were not welcome at the funeral and that my children and I would be a distraction to my ex's father, family's grieving. I'm shocked and hurt. I told him I had never heard anything so hateful, and the conversation was over. My ex's father and sister have never visited Texas. We've lived here for 4 years. They were not close and had no idea where he worked, or even any recent photos of him. We were divorced but still good friends, and my ex was a devoted father. His children were his world. Aita for not listening to his father and still taking them. The funeral is open to anyone. I can't imagine us being there among hundreds of other people will really be a problem. Edit. For those asking his reason, he said, "Well, I gave you a nice service here. We had a short viewing only and had previously agreed to the service being in Maryland, so no, there was no service. Also, for clarity, I am the beneficiary on the policies. My ex and I did his open enrollment together every year, and we put each other as our beneficiaries to make it easier if anything like this ever did happen. I have a wrongful death attorney and he is helping me with the process, but I will reach out to a probate attorney. Thank you to everyone for the advice on SSI. Stories number 7. Aita for cutting off and exposing a friend who took advantage of a girl I was in love with. I, 22M, had a best friend, Jake, 23M, who I thought was like a brother to me. We've been through everything together: college parties, road trips, even heartbreaks. But this is something I can't forgive. For years, I had feelings for this girl, Emily, 22F. She was kind, smart, and honestly one of the few people who saw me for who I really was. I never made a move because I didn't want to ruin our friendship, and honestly, I never thought I had a chance. But Jake? He knew. He always knew. A few weeks ago, we were all at a party. Emily got too drunk, way too drunk. I was the designated driver, so I stayed sober. At some point in the night, I lost track of her, and when I asked around, I found out Jake had taken her upstairs. I wanted to believe he was just helping her out, but my gut told me something was wrong. The next day, Emily was distant, different. She wouldn't say what happened, but I could tell something was off. Then, last week, Jake and I were hanging out, and he started bragging. He said things like, "Bro, she was out of it, but she wanted it, you know. Like, she didn't say no." And then he laughed. I felt sick. I didn't say anything at first, just let him keep talking while I secretly saved everything on my phone using RecClip. Every disgusting detail. Every joke. Every time he brushed it off like it was nothing, and then I posted it. I uploaded the RecClip on my stories, my feed, everywhere. Captioned it, "This is the guy you all call your friend." The fallout was instant. People started unfollowing him. Girls he had been with before started coming forward, saying they had similar experiences. His job found out, and last I heard, he got fired. But now, people are saying I went too far. That I ruined his life and should have handled it privately. That even though he was wrong, I shouldn't have destroyed him like that. My own family is telling me I acted out of anger and that I should have just cut him off instead of humiliating him. Stories number 8. 15 years down the drain. After 15 years, my wife woke up today and decided she doesn't love me anymore. I suspect it's because for the first time since we were teens we are broke, or it's just one big coincidence. I'm not saying I'm the perfect husband, but I was a damn good one. About 6 years ago I lost my job and she told me she would love if I was a SHH, to which I gladly accepted. So for 6 years I did all of the chores and cooking. She always came home to a clean house and a warm home-cooked meal. About 4 months ago she started acting distant and wasn't as cuddly or sexual, but I chalked it up to her being overworked. This morning she woke up and told me she wants to divorce. I was devastated. I've been filling out applications for work non-stop for 10 hours now. I have no idea what to do. She was my high school sweetheart. We have been through everything together and honestly I don't know how to live my life without her. She's taking our 2 dogs and leaving me the house, huge W, but I feel so lost and scared. I'm a 30-year-old man and have nothing to show for it besides the marriage I'm losing, and I could really use some encouragement or advice. I just don't want to spiral and lose what I have left. Edit. We have been married for 8 years and together for 15. Stories number 9. I finally left my husband. I, 26F, have been with my husband, 29M, let's call him Kyle, for 7 years, married for 4. Our relationship began as something too good to be true. He was amazing and made my life so much brighter, and we were truly best friends from the start. We moved in together after only 3 weeks of knowing each other and were inseparable. We were the couple people would say, I just want something like you and Kyle, you two are so perfect for each other, and I agreed. We weren't each other's typical type and it felt like the universe brought us together. A year and a half later, he planned an elaborate proposal and we got engaged. It was magical. I couldn't have planned anything more special and romantic. We planned to get married a year and a half later. After a year we went on our bachelor/bachelorette trips, and we had our first fight after being together for 2 years. Since my bachelorette party was a month before his, he set some ground rules: call every night when you get back to the house and no hanging out at houses with men, for me, and women, for him. My bachelorette party went perfectly without even a temptation of breaking the rules, just a weekend hanging out on the beach with my girls. Skip to his bachelor party, he disappears for 6 hours. No calls, not texts. And then I see on one of his friends' social media posts that they are hanging out with a group of girls, and in the video Kyle is standing really close to a girl in a red bikini. They are talking and she is holding his phone in her hand. I tried calling and texting him and his friends for hours without a response. When I finally got in contact with him, he said his phone was inside charging and he was drunk and didn't think them hanging out with the girls would be an issue. I'm not stupid, I know he most likely cheated on me, but I chose to go forward with the wedding, which was now only 3 months away, partly because I loved him and knew I'd forgive him eventually, and my parents had already spent a lot of money on our wedding. Our wedding was beautiful and it was a perfect day. Shortly after, COVID hit and we were stuck not being able to live our normal life of going out and traveling often. 9 months into marriage I found out that he had created a fake social media account. I say fake because it was not his main profile, but he used his real name, Stupid, and was following several women. One was his ex. I made him pack his things and move out of our house. After being separated for 3 weeks, I found no evidence that he was actually contacting any of these women. He promised he'd never do something like that again. I forgave him and he moved back in. My family was also encouraging me to get back together with him. Our relationship was never better, it felt stronger and we were more connected. We bought our first house 1-to-1 2 years later and found out I was pregnant 4 months after we moved in. This is where everything begins to crumble. We did talk about me getting off of my birth control and decided it was the right time for us to start trying for a baby. But when I told him I was pregnant, he did not have the reaction I thought he would have. A big reason why I fell in love with this man is because I knew he'd be a great father. He's amazing with other kids and always talked about wanting a family of his own. He's a big kid at heart. When it came to my pregnancy, he didn't want to talk about anything baby related and seemed to pretend the baby didn't exist. He started going out more without me and planned more guys' trips. I didn't mind, I'm more of a homebody and loved being at home, nesting and preparing for the baby to come. I thought he was feeling overwhelmed with the life change that would be here soon and just needed some time to let his hair down. I am not a jealous person. I was very confident that he wouldn't cheat on me because he was my best friend. I did everything for him and his friends would often talk about how lucky he was to have me as his partner. I also think I'm quite beautiful. He also began to treat me as more of a roommate during this crisis. We have had a few small arguments in the past of him taking advantage of me cooking and cleaning for him without him showing appreciation. He stopped taking me on dates or even asking me if I would want to go with him and his friends when they'd hang out. This was shocking to me because we had been inseparable for the last 5 years. I found out 3 weeks ago that he cheated on me while on one of his boys' trips last summer. He met a girl at a bar, bought her drinks, danced and made out, even took a picture together. They exchanged numbers and the next day she found out he was married and he blocked her on all of his social media and her phone number. This is how I found her. 2 weeks prior to me finding out about this girl, I found his anonymous online profile and saw that he had been sending explicit photos. I confronted him and he apologized, saying he was depressed. I had already planned to leave and move in with my mom for a while. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something else that I was missing, so I checked his blocked accounts on social media and thought it was strange that there was a girl I didn't know on the list. I messaged her and she spilt the tea, even telling me that his friends were lying with him, telling her he was single. I confronted him and he said she was lying, of course. I left and moved in with my mom. Since then I have found out other information, not as damning, but activity that I wouldn't want my husband doing behind my back. I feel sick and devastated that he could do something like this to not only me but to our child. Did I mention I was at home alone for 8 days with our 5-month-old baby while he was on this trip where he made out with another girl? I feel like I sacrificed so much of my happiness for this man, trying to make his life as happy as possible, and he gave it all up for what? Like I said, I'm not stupid, so I know there are probably more instances of him cheating, but I don't want to know. I'm already done. Relevant comments. How did OOP's husband take the news on divorce? Reply. He thinks I will still come back to him, not surprising considering the past, but I am looking for houses and will not be going back. He stepped up as a father and loves being with our son, he sees him every chance he gets. Commenter 1, do you mind me asking, when did he step up though, is it just to win you back? Has he been on regular boys' trips for extended periods after your baby was born? Reply, he started being more active in our son's life before I left him. He had been on a couple before the baby was born, but I'd usually go with him. After the baby it was more frequent and I didn't go because I wasn't asked or because I didn't want to leave my son for days at a time. I know a lot of people have an issue with the boys' trips, but I don't want to go to 3 to 4 car shows in a year or on multiple ATV rides a year. I thought I should be able to trust my partner to take trips that are about his interests and not feel like I had to go to babysit him. Commenter 2, there is so much emphasis on the proposal and wedding. I think people forget to pick a partner differently. You had too much icing and not enough cake. The focus was on the wrong elements. The right person could ask you while watching your favorite program, I am sorry this happened to you. Please learn from it and find quality. Reply, trust me, if I could tell 19-year-old me not to fall in love with him and 22-year-old me not to marry him, I would. Update. Not sure if anyone will care, but I've found myself thinking about this post a lot and wanted to give an update. I posted here around 9 months ago about leaving my husband after finding out he had been cheating on me. The first few months were hard. I tried to maintain a friendship with him for the sake of our son but just found myself getting hurt over and over again, so I distanced myself and after a while I decided to get on a dating app, mostly to keep my mind off of him. I met someone and we connected instantly, I'll call him Matt. We texted and talked for a week before meeting in person. I didn't think it would be serious, I just wanted to get out of the house and have some fun. Turns out, he's an amazing man. I didn't even know people like him existed. He's sweet and thoughtful. He makes me laugh until I can't breathe. He's understanding, supportive and actually listens when I talk to him. He's a parent too and loves his kids more than anything. I've now been dating Matt for 6 months and I don't think I've ever been this happy in my life. I look back at my marriage with Kyle in disbelief. How did I not notice how terrible he was for so long? Matt brings me flowers and surprises me with date nights and little gifts just to show he was thinking about me when we aren't together. Despite living an hour away, he brings food to me and my son when we are sick. If I'm having a bad day, he lets me talk his ear off and drops off my favorite sweets at my house. Matt is an amazing cook and we trade off nights in the kitchen. When it's my turn to cook he spends quality time with the kids. The laughter in the house is almost constant. This is so far off from what my life was with Kyle. My ex only sees our son about 4 days a month and is constantly finding excuses to leave him with me or drop him off with his grandparents for the weekend. Being with a man who loves his kids and mine has really opened my eyes to what kind of a father Kyle is. Matt and I don't live together. He spends a lot of time at my house because my home is bigger, it accommodates all of us better than his house, and I have my son almost every day. Despite not living with me, he helps clean, does laundry and helps fix things around the house. He always comments that I don't let him do enough, but he does more for me than anyone ever has in my life. He picks me up and takes on so much that he doesn't have to, but he does it with a smile on his face. He never lets a day pass without telling me how much he loves and appreciates me. I have learned from my past and won't be moving in with anyone anytime soon. I was fooled once, and that won't happen again. Neither Matt nor I want any more kids, so we are happy with the way our life is now. No pressure, just living our lives happily alongside each other with our kids. To everyone out there who hopes your partner will change and grow up. They won't, and most likely never will. Find someone who makes you happy because they want to, not because you're begging them to. There are good people out there. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, the way he treated your son during the pregnancy and the way he is doing it now, ugh, he should give his parental rights to you because I'm sure he will let this kid down over and over. Please update us. Reply, I have talked to Kyle about signing his rights over. His parents adore my son and I think they'd disown Kyle if he ever did, so he's doing the bare minimum to keep them happy. Commenter 2, do you think it was kinda soon for him to meet your kid? Reply, I waited 6 months and even now their contact is relatively minimal. He might be too good to be true, but seeing the way he is with his daughters and how much they adore him tells me that good dad in him is very real. How did the ex take the news on OOP dating again? Reply, he went ballistic. I've never seen him lose his cool, especially not like that. I'm sure he saw it as officially losing his control over me. Before that he was telling everyone that he knew I'd be back. OOP's thoughts on how things were with Kyle in the relationship. Reply, maybe so it's hard when you still love them. I chose to leave before I had nothing but hatred in my heart for him, mostly because I have a child with him. I wasn't surprised when he treated me like shit anymore. I didn't even fight with him about the things he'd say and do. My idea of him was so much better than the reality of being with him. I realized I was in love with his potential, not him. It took me a very long time to come to terms with the fact that the person I loved didn't exist anywhere but in my head. My ex will always love his friends and beer more than anything else. When we were 19-20 seconds and dating, it was fun, but being 26-29, married with a baby. It was time to grow up, but he can't and never will. He has a new girlfriend now, and he treats her the same way he treated me. OOP's current relationship with Matt and his background. Reply, we both came from very toxic relationships, so to say we are both just relieved to be appreciated in some way is an understatement. I know this new, fun, honeymoon phase won't last forever. Neither of us are rushing into anything. He's just my boyfriend, I'm just his girlfriend. And that's all we will be for a very long time. We've got little hearts on the line now too. We're just enjoying life the way it is, happy. Stories number 10. My 30F student, 18M, made a super creepy comment. My husband, 35M, think I'm being paranoid. I'm a high school English teacher and have been for a few years. In that time, as a woman, I've been used to teenage boys behaving awkwardly around me sometimes, and pheromones are part of the deal. There have been occasional comments, but generally in the vein of Miss, so-and-so has a crush on you, or Miss, would you be so-and-so's Valentine? It's all in good humor, in front of the whole class or a large group, and is well-meaning. My school throws a January ball for seniors, 16 to 18, which is basically an opportunity to celebrate the start of another calendar year, as it's after hours not every teacher has to attend, and this year I was asked to chaperone. There is no alcohol permitted, but obviously some of them sneak in hip flasks and so on. During this month's ball 2 students were huddled at a table in the corner of the hall, not dancing, just keeping to themselves. I know them well as problematic students who have difficulties socially, but also perform poorly academically, so they don't fit in with the popular crowd or the nerdy lot. We have some of these every year: poor hygiene, greasy hair, long fingernails, that sort of thing. Immediately I could tell they had been drinking, from the way they spoke and smelled, and asked them to hand over any alcohol they had. One of the boys, call him Stuart, started protesting. He said the following, and I'm 100% sure this is what he actually said. Come on, Mississippi, don't pretend you won't open that bottle of Bailey's when you get home, feet up in your dressing gown, watching the new TV, give us a break. Now as soon as he said this I felt my heart drop into my stomach and got cold all over. I had just bought a bottle of Bailey's Irish Cream for myself the weekend before the dance. I am in the habit, on nights where I don't have much marking/planning and want to treat myself, of having a bath and watching a movie series in my dressing gown. My husband bought a new television over Christmas. I asked him how he knew those things, and he feigned ignorance, basically saying it was a lucky guess. I was so shaken that I left them, and a short while later they both left. But that night I could barely sleep, and my paranoia kept growing. I simply cannot believe that he could have guessed all 3 those things, one, maybe, but no way all 3. My husband is away for work currently. I phoned and told him about it and he basically downplayed my concerns, saying I probably mentioned those things to my class at various points and this student has just remembered it. But I would never mention those things, I just wouldn't, and I'm sure I haven't. I've become more skittish at home when I hear noises. I only live in a small house, but when I arrive home from buying groceries I check every single room and cupboard before I lock the doors. I've also arranged to have the locks changed. When cars stop outside the house I turn all the lights off and peek at them through the blinds. I'm having trouble sleeping. In class, this student is quiet and the same as ever, not completing homework assignments, distracted in class. My husband is growing increasingly exasperated and worried more for my mental health than the possibility this student could somehow know details of my personal life. I mentioned it to my supervisor as well, and she also basically reasoned that I had either misheard what he said, it was a coincidence, or a combination of the two. What's the play here? I'm seriously freaked out and don't know how to even begin putting this to rest. Update. I wasn't expecting this post to receive so much attention. I'm really grateful to so many people who validated my concerns and helped me develop a plan of action. I got home a little while ago and am going out shortly with a friend to try rule out Bluetooth and Wi-Fi devices with my neighbors. After that, the two of us will try and conduct a meticulous search of the house for any concealed devices, using the lights-out phone camera trick some people recommended and some other tips I've found online. Just to clarify a couple of points that I've seen raised a few times. Dressing gown is a really common term here in England for what Americans might call a robe. It's absolutely common parlance here. Most people I know would associate a robe with something a wizard might wear. In terms of it being a lucky guess, if he had just said, relax with a glass of wine, I might have assumed so. But the dressing gown comment plus the Bailey's comment when I had just bought a bottle, and the explicit mention of a new television which I am 100% certain I did not misinterpret, these things make it so much harder to write off as a coincidence. As far as social media goes, I have Instagram, which is set to private under my maiden name, and my profile picture is not of me. I am not in the habit of connecting with former students. I only have 3 who have all gone on to study English at university and have used me as references. I also have a Snapchat which I use only with my husband and very close friends. I have posted nothing about my new television, and I also don't think I've mentioned this to colleagues, let alone to students. Certainly I said nothing about the Baileys I just bought. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Is it possible that you or your husband were observed buying the new TV and the Baileys? The student's parents could have seen either purchase and said, oh, thrower age 94 just got a new LG 65-inch. I agree you should do a sweep for cameras or ask a techish friend for help, but that would necessitate figuring out how the cameras got there, which opens up a larger conspiracy. Reply. How can I do a sweep for cameras? Genuinely want to know. Commenter 2. Well, I'm in IT but not that area. If there was a camera, logically it would have to be transmitting, so prob use a Wi-Fi connection. I've read that skimmers and gas station credit card payment units can send data through Wi-Fi so the bad actor doesn't have to retrieve it. That Wi-Fi should show up on your phone if you look at various Wi-Fi offerings on your phone. You'd have to take into consideration closeness of neighbors' houses and their routers, so it's a guess. How a camera got there is another puzzle. Occam's razor says to look at the easier likelihood. So can someone be looking in your window as you sip Baileys in a nightgown, and also noticed your recycle bin with a discarded LG TV box recently? Commenter 3. I'm not a huge techie, but I've been around the block a few times. Your husband is being naive, and while I appreciate people trying to encourage you that the surveillance is happening via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and of course investigate those avenues, please also take seriously the idea that you are being stalked. Even stalked for fun with no malicious intent. I mentioned in a separate comment the idea of a dog, and there are also many DIY ways of alarming or otherwise reinforcing your house that don't involve tech if you look on YouTube, for example. Hoping you stay safe. Update. I wasn't going to post an update here, but the number of worried people who have reached out to me made me reconsider. After a thorough search of my house I found 2 devices. They seem to be camera devices. I don't know if audio is included. One of them was in the smoke detector in my bedroom, while the other was concealed in the wall of my living room. Looking at an old picture of my bedroom, it looks like the smoke detector itself has changed very slightly. I think that the new one is a device in itself which the culprit somehow switched with the old one without us noticing. The matter has now been referred to the police. If it wasn't for so many of you taking me seriously and giving me practical advice, I wouldn't have had the courage to check, especially given my husband downplaying the concerns. He has been very apologetic and is coming back from his work trip early, but I've asked to spend some time apart and will be staying with my parents for a while. I'm glad I raised the issue with the head at my school and a couple of others, as there's a paper trail, another suggestion from the thread. Needless to say, I'm completely shaken to my core and I have the most revolting feeling of my privacy being invaded. I have no idea how many people have been involved in this, but phones have been taken from students and we should have more answers soon. I won't be making any more posts or updates. Thank you again to everyone for affirming me and making me feel sane. Stories number 11. Aita telling my ex-wife she has to choose between her kid or her life. So about a year ago now, my ex and I filed for divorce after a 9-year marriage. She wanted to go live with her new boyfriend in a city 3+ hours away and figure her life out, so we agreed I'd get majority custody of our daughter so as to not disrupt her life. We then agreed that once she got her life together that she'd move back to our town so we could split time between us for our kid easily. She decided to change her mind and move to a city an hour away. Okay, fine. She did that so her boyfriend could be close to his job and so he could be close to his daughter, who he doesn't have custody of. 2 months after the divorce finales, she gets engaged to him and starts telling our daughter that he's stepdad. They've been together for a year at this point to my knowledge. This bit's important because I feel like it's driving my aggravation a little bit and I want to make sure what I'm saying is me being fair and not being angry. On top of this, when she moved out she promised to get all her stuff out before the end of the year, couldn't manage that and didn't get most of it out until mid-Jan and there's still stuff she left here, not to mention the mess I was left to clean up and repair, damage to the walls from stuff she hung up and didn't take down properly. Anyway, because I was given majority custody because she wanted to make choices to benefit her relationship and her boyfriend's life, we agreed on a 4-day 3-day split when she figured her situation out. I did some research later on after she, and her fiancé who believed he should have a say, asked to do 1 week on and 1 week off, again going against what we agreed on, and I was uncomfortable being away from my 3-year-old that long. Yes, I did the research for my benefit because I love my daughter more than anything in the world, so it's important at this stage of her life to get frequent time for both parents. Every 2 days switching is ideal but no more than 4 days. It's for a child's emotional and psychological development. So I changed our agreement to a 4-day rotation. I see her for 4, her mom has her for 4. Flash forward to now, her mom wants to go to EDC, for those who don't know, that's Electric Daisy Carnival, a huge rave festival spanning multiple days. Those days fall on her rotation. So she asks me if we can switch weeks. Given that wouldn't work because it means throwing off the whole rotation and my kiddo would be 8 days away from me and then 8 from her so that her mom can go to a rave out of state, I said no. I said, so switching isn't really an option without throwing off the whole schedule. You either don't go or spend that time with your kid or you explain to her why she won't see you for a longer period of time. Am I the bad guy? Should I suck it up and hope one stint over a week apart won't hurt my child? Or should I feel good about standing up for this when I've bent several times over for her mom? Edit. Since I neglected to mention this and commented it, I want to clearly state this. She has a full-time job where she makes approximately 10K more than I do. I've also worked EDC in the past with her. You work part of the time for min wage and get free entry to the show afterwards. This is not something she needs to go do but wants to so she can work a bit of it and go to the rest for free. She's more than welcome to go, but my ask is in that case that we do not change the rotation, but I'd have her for longer and she'd have her again on her next rotation. No, I don't think she's going to do drugs there. Edit 2. I also want to specify that my stance on this is only during her young development age. When she starts school, her mom could have her for the full summer if she wanted and flexibility can be vastly changed and compromised on when she's a bit older. Update, she hasn't responded but I sent a follow-up. So full transparency because I was feeling weird about what I said. I posted the situation on Reddit in Am I the Asshole about your EDC trip. A lot of folks agreed with me that it's not good for the kid and that if I let you do this, it's something you'll keep doing and taking advantage of me trying to rearrange things for you. A lot of other people made good points too on the reverse side. Because if we keep things the way we agreed, I'd have her 12 days in a row. What we might be able to do is flip the weeks. I'll have to figure out how to rework my calendar but that's on me for writing it out so far. To where I'd have her for 8 days and we'll flip the weeks when you get back if that makes sense. It'd be good if you called her regularly when you're there too so she's not getting too disconnected from you. How I said what I said was harsh and I'm sorry for that, but the meaning behind it feels valid. Let's try to figure something out so you can still go. Stories number 12. My wife refuses to accept our divorce and I think she's trying to trick me. My wife, 29F, and I, 34M, have been married for 4 years, and up until a year and a half ago, things were fantastic. Our marriage began to deteriorate after there was a significant drop in sex between us, not intimacy, just the actual sex part of the relationship. We would still cuddle and have deep intimate moments talking and just being around each other but she kept rejecting my attempts at taking things further past kissing. Now we have had no problem communicating so I made sure to address it early, and we talked and made adjustments. We both made sure to stay in shape, we tried being more adventurous, we went to couples therapy/counseling, and even tested both of our hormone levels, everything was normal. Each solution would work for a little while and then we'd be back to having sex maybe once a month. I asked her several times if she was no longer attracted to me, to which she denied every time. I asked her if I was falling short in the relationship in any other way, to which she said no. Well, about a month ago, she gets back from her therapy session and tells me that she believes that she's asexual and that's the reason for her libido being non-existent as of late. I was definitely confused because we had such great sex for a while in the beginning of our relationship, but her telling me that she's now asexual was heartbreaking because everything else is great. Obviously I'm not going to force her to have sex, so we had a long conversation about our relationship and I came to the conclusion that we should get a divorce. I say, because she immediately rejected the idea and said we would figure something out and wouldn't talk to me about it anymore. I didn't know what to say, so I dropped it. Well, 3 weeks go by, without sex, and I decided that I have to do this for my own mental well-being, so I filed for divorce and had her served with the papers. Last week when I got home from work, she was going about the day like nothing was wrong. I asked her if she signed the papers and she flat out said, "We are not getting a divorce," and changed the subject and acted like things were normal. Obviously I thought this was crazy, so I stopped her and said I couldn't be in a marriage devoid of sex, and I mentioned that I was being incredibly fair with our divorce. She can keep the house that we bought and paid for with cash. She paid 1/3, I paid 2/3, I'd take all of the debt, which isn't much, we'd split our savings and investments in half, and she can keep 2 of our 3 paid off cars. I only wanted to keep my sports car. Thankfully we don't have kids. I love her and wanted her to be comfortable, and I have no problem starting over since I make a good income. But she won't budge or talk about the divorce. This brings us to 2 days ago. I get home and go to our bedroom and find my wife's friend, 27F, in our bed naked. I immediately shut the door, said sorry, and went looking for my wife. I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing here, and she said that she was here for me. I put 2 and 2 together and said that I'm not having sex with other women in place of the woman I chose to marry. She was adamant on saying that I could sleep with her whenever I wanted and that her friend agreed to it. I couldn't believe things would get this far, so I went back to our bedroom and asked her friend to leave. I packed a bag and I've been staying in a hotel nearby since that night. My wife, her mother, and her sister keeps calling me, but I'm just not interested in hearing what they have to say. This feels like a trick. I just want this whole thing to be over. Does anyone have advice? Is this some kind of ploy for alimony? We do have a prenup. Should I just contact my lawyer and try and force the divorce? I'm really uncomfortable with this entire situation. Edit. We talked last night, I'll update when I get home from work. Edit 2. Here's the update if anyone's interested. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. I feel overwhelmed, so I probably won't bother with another update after this one, I don't know. My wife came to my hotel last night and we talked about everything. She told me the full truth and what's going on in her mind. A few of you commented this in the last post, so you were right. She has always been asexual. She and her whole family has known this since she was 16. Apparently this is the reason why her last long-term relationship of 3 years ended. He broke up with her after the sex between them diminished to being non-existent after the first year. She told me that sex is easier for her in the beginning when emotions are running high, but she still needs to force herself to have it. I knew they broke up due to irresolvable differences, but I didn't ask for details, nor did she tell me. After a lot of apologies and crying, she told me that I was the first person she was able to tolerate sex with for so long and that she did enjoy it a handful of times, but after a while she still felt like she was being raped. I broke down after hearing this and started kicking myself for not catching on to any of this. She said she tried her best to please me as much as she could. 2. She still doesn't want a divorce and she doesn't want the house, cars, or the savings. She just wants me and is ready to do whatever it takes to keep me. She even said that she would sign a postnup stating this. 3. As for her friend, she was there during her last breakup and helped to support her through it. My wife went to her after I brought up divorce and talked things out. Her friend suggested that she open the relationship for me, but she said she didn't want me sleeping with strange women, so her friend volunteered herself to be the one that sleeps with me. My wife thought this was a great idea, which led to the fiasco at our house. I won't comment on her appearance because it doesn't matter, and I don't blame the friend. 4. My lawyer got back to me, you were all right. I don't need her permission, but I will have to wait if I want to push it through. 5. I asked her why she lied to me this entire time, and she said she was tired of being rejected after revealing she was asexual, so she convinced herself that she would be able to force herself to have sex during the relationship. The hormone testing, the sessions in couples therapy, and all of our solutions was just her buying time to find another way around sex or give herself enough time to build up the strength to start regularly having sex with me again. 6. Our conversation ended with us holding each other in bed crying for a couple of hours. No, we didn't have sex. She pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce to look for a solution together and left my hotel room. 7. I'm now sitting alone typing this fucking post. I guess I found out that we don't share everything with each other. 8. Thank you to everyone who has messaged me directly, I'm still trying to get to all of them. 9. I don't know what I'm going to do. Relevant comments. How long the wife has knew about the divorce. Reply. We lightly touched on the subject 4 months prior to getting served. The final push was when she discovered that she was asexual. I brought up divorce at that time, but she didn't want to talk about it and said she won't consider a divorce. I was stonewalled from that specific conversation. I filed anyway. It was the first time she refused to talk to me about any subject. I was surprised since we share literally everything with each other. Is it a medical issue? Reply. If it was a medical issue I wouldn't have made this post and I'd be by my wife's side right now. But it isn't the case, and sex is how I show and feel my love. We only get to do this being a human thing once, and sex is important to me. Is she depressed? Reply. I don't think she's depressed. I'm sure her therapist would have caught it or she would have told me, but I can't be sure now. Other than sex, things have been normal. I can't imagine that we missed anything. She really did put in a ton of effort. We both did/do. But thank you, I know we'll both be fine, but I figure it's better to do this now before we accidentally have children. Update. I don't think I can link my previous post, so just go to my profile I guess if you care to read the op. I've tried to read every comment message and take to heart what most of you had to say. Also please stop messaging me. I can't respond to everyone, it's too much. I'll make this as short as possible. After my last update, my wife asked me to meet with her about a week later to discuss things with her. I've been staying at an extended stay since that night with her friend. We met at our house and talked for a few hours. She started off with a ton of apologies for how she acted, her lying about her sexuality, and not taking my sexual needs more seriously. Before I could say anything she presented a signed post-nup agreement she had drafted with a lawyer stating that she doesn't want anything, the house, the cars, savings, everything. I felt like the biggest asshole for thinking that she was tricking me for more money. I asked her if she was serious and she told me to take the post-nup with me and sign it when I'm ready. I still haven't signed it, it's in my backpack. I told her that I still think divorce is our best course of action and that we both deserve to find someone who matches our needs. She still refused and borderline begged me to reconsider. She started crying and so did I. Seeing her like this was devastating. I told her that her finding other women to sleep with me wasn't going to work. What if I develop feelings for them? What if I get one of them pregnant? Do we expect her to get an abortion? She said we'll figure it out as we go along and to please give her more time to work on other solutions. She set up appointments for sex and hormone therapy, and it's seeing a sex guru. I said that it sounds like we're going through the same things again, but she was adamant and pleaded with me to wait. There were more apologies on both sides and we kissed for a while before ending the conversation. Then I went back to my hotel that night. A few days later I tried texting her but she didn't respond, so I called her dad. I'm avoiding her mother and sister since they are saying the same things as my wife. Her dad told me that she moved back home and has been holed up in her room since our talk. She called out of work. He told me that she's barely eating, bathing, or talking to him or her mom. He asked me what I was going to do but I didn't have an answer for him. He just said he understands and said he would be here to talk anytime I wanted to. So I went back to our house and a good portion of her stuff was gone. The whole place feels empty. I've been sleeping in one of the spare rooms. I'm planning on flying to my mother's house in a couple weeks to spend time with my family to decompress from this entire situation. I'm still on the divorce side of the fence but I guess there's no rush. Thank you to everyone for your insight and concern. Seriously, I know we're all strangers but most of you have been a huge help to my mental health. Seriously, thank you. Also my cousin uses Reddit and reached out after he found my last post and asked me to shout him out if I made an update. Love you Virgil, thank you for being there for me. I think I'll just make a quick edit to this post once we reach a resolution for anyone that cares. New update. Hey everyone, in hindsight I regret making these posts because I think I received too many pieces of advice. I keep thinking I should have just handled it internally with just family. I don't regret my decisions, I just wish I gave myself more time to think. Anyway, here's the update. I'll keep it short. The divorce was finalized months ago, our house was sold along with one of the cars, and my ex-wife is still living with her parents. I had a little more than 2-3 RDS of the proceeds wired to her account but the last time I talked to her dad she hasn't touched a dime. I was informed that she checked into a mental health clinic but I don't know how long she was there or what her current state is. I changed my number but her dad has emailed me a few times to check on me throughout this last year, which breaks my heart because he's a great man. Him playing both sides of the fence like this really made everything go a lot smoother other than not warning me, which I honestly don't think it was his place to. He's been a huge help. I moved back to my home state to be closer to my family. I may leave to go to another state again. I don't know, I'm not sure yet. I feel numb from this whole thing. Not much of a drinker so I've been smoking a ton of pot and working out to occupy my mind. To everyone who didn't get a response from me in my messages, I'm sorry but there was just too many. I responded to as many as I could mentally handle. I think that's it. I can't imagine that there would be any additional questions, but I'll answer whatever I can. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Are you happy? That's all I would like to know at this point, brother. You've been through a lot. Reply. I'm happy to be alive to experience the highs and lows of this existence. I'm happy to move on to the next chapter of my life. Thank you for asking, brother. Commenter 2. Good to her, man. Just out of curiosity, do you see yourself ever capable of being friends with her again, or is the pain too strong to ever be around her again? Reply. I view her differently now, although I still love her. I don't know about the distant future, but for now there's no way. Stories number 13. My, F49, cousin, F23, asked my daughter, F16, to perform at her wedding reception, but became bitter upon seeing the positive reception to her act. She has since posted about her online, and my daughter is considering quitting. I hope this is okay to share here. The reason I'm posting is because of my daughter who's been hurting in the aftermath of a recent performance. I'm sorry in advance for how long this turned out, but any advice from fellow aerialists would be greatly appreciated. My cousin Dana, not real name, had her wedding 2 weeks ago, and she asked if my daughter could perform at her reception. My daughter, Jane, also fake name, has practiced Silk's lyra for the past few years at a nearby circus studio, and she's also performed with through the studio at small gigs. She hopes to continue into adulthood and become a professional teacher, but this recent incident has shaken her confidence. She has a private Instagram to document her progress/performances, and I only post certain performances on my Facebook, her first gig with the studio and her first recital to name a few we're proud of. Some of our relatives saw her performances through my socials, and they watched her perform at her studio's Christmas recital when we hosted Christmas at our home a few years back, something that surprised her when they visited early to see her. I love how they coordinated that, and Jane said it was her loudest cheering section to date. Dana was one of the relatives who came up early to see her Christmas recital, and she's always been super supportive. She asked me if Jane would be willing to perform at the reception, and I asked on her behalf. Jane was honored and excited when I did, and we already had a portable rig for her too, though we ended up renting a taller one from her studio. Dana got the idea from a YouTube video featuring an aerialist who performed at a wedding reception, and she showed us while requesting white silks and a white outfit. We scoped out the venue and purchased white silks along with a white costume that Dana approved of, and Jane was really excited throughout. Jane even worked on choreography to a song that Dana requested, and she put a lot of time into it, even asking one of her coaches to help her with it. Dana insisted on paying her for the gig despite Jane not expecting to be paid, and she paid her a few hundred. However, Dana's had a change of heart. Jane received a standing ovation after her performance that surprised her, but we didn't know anything was wrong until Dana went on Facebook a few days later. Dana said she didn't approve of the outfit Jane wore and that she specifically told her to not wear white. She also said my husband and I pressured her to have Jane perform and that the performance gave off an unclassy vibe, lies that my husband and I couldn't believe. We sent Dana numerous costume links, and we purchased the one she liked. There was also nothing wrong with Jane's performance. Dana was one of the people cheering afterward. Jane received nothing but compliments afterward, but I'm disgusted that she had to see that post after all the work she put into it. The post also had comments disabled for what it's worth. I called Dana to confront her about the lies, but she didn't pick up numerous calls. I then called her parents who, like us, had received messages about her post, and they said that Dana was wrong. They apologized on her behalf and said they were also disgusted. Dana's mom also said that Dana vented to her before making her post a few days after the reception. Dana told her she regretted asking Jane to perform given the attention, compliments and cheers she received for it. Her mom also said that she felt upstaged with Jane wearing white and having to hear how good she was. Dana's parents tried to call her after she made her post, but she didn't answer after their previous conversation ended with her parents telling her she shouldn't be bitter because she specifically asked Jane to perform. Dana's parents reported the post along with us/others, and we've told the truth to those who reached out along with a post to explain our side. Stand up for Jane. We have text proof of sending costume links that Dana chose from. Dana's parents also requested to talk to Jane on the phone to apologize for Dana's behavior, and my husband and I told Jane that Dana was wrong, and that we'll be distancing ourselves from Dana permanently. Dana's parents were surprised at her behavior, and we were too, having seen her grow up. Granted, we only see extended family for Thanksgiving and Christmas because we live far, but other relatives were surprised too as it seemed to come from left field. Maybe there's a side of Dana we'll never know from our limited holiday milestone interactions, but our focus is Jane. We've tried to cheer Jane up by offering to take her to dinner among other activities, but she's been hurting, which is why I'm here. Jane hasn't practiced, at home or the studio, since the reception, and I don't want to invade her space at her studio by asking/telling anyone there, in case she doesn't want anyone to know. She asked me to return the white silks and costume after being so excited to receive them. She also said she's going to take an extended break from Ariel to reconsider if she wants to continue. Aside from Ariel, she's taken a break from seeing non-Ariel friends too, choosing to pretty much keep to herself. We would appreciate any advice from fellow Arielists on how to lift her spirits. We reminded her of how we're proud of her, along with the many compliments she received, but she's asked for space and to not talk about it. We're going to respect that and let time do its thing, but we'll consider any advice from other Arielists who can relate to the time and work she put in. Sorry for this being so long, but we appreciate anyone who read and takes the time to reply. First update. Before I get into what's happened since my last post, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment. 2 pieces of advice really stood out, and I'll get to them shortly. Since my original post, Dana's Facebook post is gone. I don't know if she deleted it or enough people reported it for Facebook to remove it, but we're glad it's gone. She never apologized to us, or Jane, or even bothered to call, so our position on being permanently done with Dana stands. My husband and I made a post on my Facebook addressing the lies she spewed about our daughter, and we shared photo proof of Dana's texts where she approved of Jane's white costume from links we sent, not to mention the song choice she sent us too. Better yet, Dana's mother reposted it on her account, which really surprised me. Dana's mother wrote that they loved Jane's act and that they disapproved of Dana's actions. My husband and I also made sure that Jane was okay with us addressing it on Facebook, and she said it was fine. Normally, I wouldn't use Facebook to address drama if aimed at me, but since this involves a grown adult attacking a minor, we felt the need to address it publicly because she disparaged her publicly, and Jane will remember whether we stood up for her or not years from now. I had a chance to speak with Dana's mother since my original post on the phone, and she spoke to Dana again since our last call. Dana reiterated how she regretted asking Jane to perform, but she harped on the standing ovation that bothered her the most. Dana told her that she expected Jane to get some polite applause, but that the overwhelming response really set her over the edge because she expected the loudest cheers to be when she and her husband entered the reception, but that went to Jane instead. Dana and her husband also received a great reception when they entered the reception, but Jane's performance did too, and Dana didn't expect it. Heck, even Jane was surprised by it too. She never received a standing ovation from a solo act before. But Dana's mother believes that if Dana had asked someone to sing who received a similar reception, Dana's jealousy would have been all the same. Someone suggested seeing if Jane would be interested in speaking to a therapist given how hurtful Dana's comments could be for a teen, and Jane said she's open to it so long as it isn't a counselor at school because, as of now, she doesn't want anyone at school or her studio to know about the incident. And she vaguely told the coach who helped her choreograph that it went fine. We will respect her privacy request as it's her right to control the narrative. But in the same vein, I suggested therapy for Dana to Dana's mother since her reaction might be a bigger insecurity, and she said she'd ask. The other thing someone suggested was the possibility of Dana's husband, or anyone, making an inappropriate comment to Jane during the reception that made her shut down and not want to see friends or practice days before Dana's post. My husband decided to ask her, and Jane said no when he did. If something happened, perhaps she'd be more comfortable telling a therapist with time. But on the bright side, she said she might want to try a different Ariel studio because she doesn't want to answer questions about how it went, or share a video, at her home studio, so we will help her find somewhere new as she asked. We hope she doesn't permanently leave her current studio because she has friends and coaches who are supportive, and she performs with that studio's troupe at festivals/gigs, but I personally understand the need to sometimes go somewhere where nobody knows you for a break, and we hope that will help her. She hasn't said definitely yet, but if we does, we'll take her. She still wants an extended break from Ariel in the meantime. But even if when she goes back, she said she may never want to perform again and would rather do it leisurely, one of the reasons she doesn't want to return to her home studio where she's a part of their troupe. She asked if we'd tell her troupe coach that she won't perform with them anymore if it comes to it. And if that's what she wants down the road, then we will. Hopefully time heals this wound and helps her at least keep the friends she has there, but we can only hope. Second update. When I tried to make each past post, they were immediately removed for some reason, thus why I asked Madison Brave to post on my behalf after a few failed attempts on my original and update posts. I was able to make a post to my own profile stating that I gave Madison permission to post on my behalf, but when I tried to add this final update, my account was suspended as soon as I hit post, and I'm guessing I tried too many times to repost it along with the many attempts on my original and update too. I have since made a new account and reached out to the mods for assistance posting my last update after Madison suggested that I reach out to them instead of constantly reposting it previously, and they were gracious enough to help me. This is going to be the last time I update, and I want to thank everyone who gave advice. In my last post, I mentioned that Jane said she'd be open to talking to a professional so long as it wasn't anyone from her school, and we agreed to accommodate her. However, she changed her mind shortly after and said she wanted to talk to her coach instead, whom she had been brushing off since the reception and being vague about how it went. She and her coach put a lot of time into choreographing the act for Dana, and she didn't even charge her for the sessions to do so. Her coach is also part of her Circus Studios performing troupe, and she has always been supportive and understanding. We supported her decision to talk with her coach, and they did in person. It was after they spoke that Jane spoke to me following her coach's suggestion to do so, and I'm going to be somewhat vague about certain details of our discussion. She also asked to speak to me first before we talked to my husband afterward, and that's what we did. Jane opened up about how Dana sent a private message to her Instagram the day after the reception, but to her personal Instagram and not the private circus one. Dana's private message was just as bitter as her Facebook posts, but much more hurtful. Dana called Jane derogatory sexual terms in her message, and I can't express how angry my husband and I still are. Jane said she was surprised upon receiving the message. Dana was always supportive of her craft, and she gave her a standing ovation along with her husband. Looking back, Dana probably did because everyone else was doing so. But Dana also wrote that she only received the ovation because they were family who were biased and couldn't tell the difference between a good and bad aerialist. Jane blocked Dana long before we spoke, and she said she was hurt because Dana was one of the relatives who came up for Christmas early when he hosted some years back to attend her studio's Christmas recital, which surprised her, and we all went out to dinner afterwards too. My husband and I tried our best to remind her that Dana's reaction was a reflection of her insecurities rather than anything Jane did. If the best man gave a speech that garnered the same reaction, Dana would have directed her vitriol at him. Jane said she understood that it wasn't her fault, but there was more in Dana's message that hurt her confidence, such as bodily comments that were disgusting. She said she may return to aerial at some point, but that she still needs time and is unsure about performing again compared to doing it leisurely. We told her, among other things, that we commended her decision to speak with her coach and that we'll respect her ultimate decision. Jane also said that she didn't tell us immediately because she wasn't sure if she wanted further drama with Dana if we told her parents about her message. However, after some time, she said she actually wanted us to tell them because she felt that Dana deserved repercussions for it. She said she was surprised that Dana's parents called her out publicly, on Facebook, without knowing about the message, so that made her feel comfortable with us telling them. Jane also saved a screenshot of Dana's message, and while we agreed to tell her parents, we suggested that she delete it afterwards because it's not good to carry around hurtful things. She's also still open to speaking to a professional about the other stuff in Dana's message that's more hurtful so long as it's no one from her school. We are in the process of trying to find a therapist who can help with some of the infidelities that led to her shutdown in the weeks after the performance. I honestly cannot thank her coach enough, but I just want to touch on a few more things that were suggested in comments. I received a few DMs saying we were just as bad as Dana for addressing Dana's lies on Facebook, so I want to be clear. My husband and I rarely use Facebook, and if someone had started drama with me on a Facebook post, I wouldn't use Facebook to address it personally. I'd opt for a call instead, but since she disparaged a minor publicly with lies regarding costumes that we had text proof of her approving, we felt the need to post those messages proving that she signed off on them, and we asked Jane if she was okay with it first. The other thing a few people asked was whether her costume was potentially inappropriate. The costume we purchased came from a website that many professional circus performers use, including some who used to be in Cirque du Soleil and tagged the shop while wearing it on their socials, and we purchased other costumes from there in the past. Heck, some of their costumes have been used in wedding gigs by hired circus performers too. Jane's costume also received many compliments, but we're glad Jane realizes that she isn't responsible for Dana's insecurities. This was also Jane's first negative experience in her young performing career. Despite knowing Dana is entirely at fault, her words still hurt as they were close before this. Jane has kept in contact with her coach since, and she's even considering a different apparatus to take her mind off of silks that is temporarily tainted. We hope that time and therapy will help her with whatever she chooses, but her coach has also floated the idea of organizing a hangout with her troupe completely outside of aerial, like a zipline rope course day, to get her mind off of it while seeing her friends, and she said she'd be open to it. Dana's parents also sent Sherry's berries for Jane, which was really sweet, and Jane sent them a text to thank them too. Regarding Dana's parents, I discussed the private message with Dana's mother, and she was even more disgusted than before. She said that she and her husband would deal with it and that there'd be permanent changes to their relationship with Dana until she apologizes and then some. She also apologized to us on her behalf and said she didn't raise her to be like that. But for what it's worth, even before we mentioned Dana's message, she told me that Dana's husband wasn't thrilled with her Facebook post. Among other things Dana complained about regarding the wedding, things that I had no clue about. She also said she's not sure if they'll be together much longer due to other things going on too, but I'll keep this to Jane only and hope that she comes back to Ariel someday, or even a different apparatus if she chooses. New update. I didn't plan on making another post, but something incredible happened after my last post, and I couldn't resist. Sometime after making Dana's mother aware of Dana's private Instagram message to Jane, Dana's husband reached out to us on Facebook asking if we could have a call, and it was the first I'd heard from him since the reception. After arranging a call, he said he heard about the effect Dana's Facebook post and Instagram message had on Jane and that he felt terrible about her considering quitting. He said he disapproved of Dana's behavior regarding Jane among other things post-wedding that led to him pursuing a divorce. However, upon talking to his father about how Dana's behavior potentially ruined her passion, his parents were equally disgusted and wanted to do something, and that led to him reaching out. He said he felt bad about Jane alienating herself from her studio/performing troupe friends as a result of Dana's behavior, and that gave way to an idea. He wanted to ask if Jane would be comfortable performing at a fundraising dinner alongside her troupe if he hired them through the studio so that something good could come from Dana's mess, and he figured that performing alongside her friends would make her more comfortable. He also said that Dana's original Facebook post had become a talking point among many of his friends' relatives who attended the reception and felt bad about Dana disparaging her. My husband and I even received a few Facebook messages expressing support for Jane after Dana's post, but he wanted to do something more. He talked to his father about booking a restaurant catering space for a fundraiser banquet that would support her circus studio and performers, and the money would go to the studio and a local charity. However, he also wants to give a college donation to the performers and allow attendees to donate to the performers' college funds as many of them are Jane's age. He said he partly got the idea from relatives who wanted to express support for Jane outside of a Facebook message to us, and some even asked if Jane's performance would be uploaded, which wasn't for various reasons, Dana's bitterness and him not wanting to post a bad memory for Jane. He said that the event would only happen if Jane was comfortable because he wanted to encourage her to perform again with her Ariel friends, and it wouldn't happen immediately as he's trying to work on a divorce. She and her troupe would have time to choreograph, and the banquet would support the local youth in the community along with a charity for a good cause. I told him I would ask and get back to him. And when I relayed everything to Jane, she was excited about the idea of performing with her friends, which made me happy to see her open to it. When I told him her reply, he was happy that something good would come from Dana's mess. He also reckoned that members of his extended family friends would come because many were upset on Jane's behalf, and were going to invite our family as well. He asked for our help in booking the studio's troupe, and we told Jane's coach, who has been helpful and in touch with him too. I'll try to make no more than one more update after the event, but I wanted to share this because it came out of nowhere and seems to have reignited Jane's passion. I can't thank him and his father enough. His vision is to allow someone from the charity his father knows to speak early at the banquet, and after that person does, members of the troupe will perform acts as part of a 30 to 40-minute show, giving each performer a chance to shine before he and his father end the program with monetary donations to the charity, studio, and performers' college funds before a plate or something is passed so that attendees can donate to the college funds too. It may be a few months until it happens, but I'll try my best to update when it does. I apologize for how long this update was, but I also appreciate everyone who gave advice on my other posts too. Comments from the latest update. Commenter 1, that's so sweet of him and I'm glad something good could come out of it. I'm happy that she was receptive to the idea and I hope all the best for her and her friends. Commenter 2, if the event also has a way to donate through a GoFundMe. I bet there are people here who have been following this story who would like to donate who wouldn't be able to make it to the in-person event. Stories number 14. Aita, for ending an 8-year friendship after my cameras recorded her in my home when I was out of town. The reason I second-guessed myself is because of my own weak boundaries. I felt sorry for her and thought it probably wouldn't happen again. But that was before I found out that she had done it many times before. And my other friend that told me that I should forgive is just a super kind and loving person. I know I made the right decision, but of course there is a sadness and loss of what I thought was an 8-year friendship. I appreciate all the comments and I feel good about the decision I made. Yes, doors are locked and security in place. Backstory, my friend and I met when I was her hairstylist. Then we realized that we only lived about 6 blocks apart. Due in part to the proximity, we became very close and she would stop by 3 or more times a week. We enjoyed a lot of the same crafts and we had a mutual love of plants, so we often worked together in my yard, or hung out by my fire pit. She had a lot of constant personal relationship crisis, which I always pointed out that she brought on herself, and it became more and more exhausting to spend time with her. Consequently, I slowly tried to limit our time together, although I did care about her and knew she didn't have many other friends. Okay, so I went out of town to visit my daughter at college, but before I left I installed the new security system that I had received. It didn't really occur to me to mention it to anyone. When I was with my daughter, I told her about it and we got on her phone so I could teach her how to watch the cameras at home also. We have 2 cats and she wanted to be able to see them and interact with them. I was showing her how to see the clips from the motions detected earlier in the day. It was nighttime so the house was dark, in which case the camera lights are on for detection. In a clip from 2 hours earlier, I noticed my friend walking through my house with the flashlight of her phone. She was inspecting every drawer, cupboard and nook and cranny. My daughter and I were in shock. I texted her immediately. I asked her if she was at my house today and she replied that she had been in the backyard picking up sticks, apparently for a fire pit she intended to have at her home that evening. Again I asked her if she had been in the house. She responded that she had to go into my garage to look for a container. I then told her I had security cameras now. She laughed and asked why I was asking her if she was there because I had obviously seen her already in the backyard. She had no clue that I had also installed them in the house. So I sent her a screenshot, and asked her if she knew who that person might be in my house with the flashlight. She waited a few minutes to respond and then said, "Oh yeah. Your cat got out." I asked her how my cat would get out if nobody was in the house and she responded, "I'm so sorry, I forgot that I was looking in your house for some gel pens because I needed to do artwork." I reminded her that she had just bought 100 of them the previous week. At this point, I was really getting pissed. I told her that I was freaked out that I saw her sneaking around my house with the flashlight and that made me uncomfortable. She just kept laughing it off and then when she realized I really was upset, she changed her tune to one of remorse and said she just needed to find something to do because she was upset with her boyfriend. I told her that I didn't think I could spend time with her anymore because I had spent years trying to teach her about boundaries and our friendship was beginning to exhausting me. So I was telling the story to the guy that rents my basement and he said that she is at my house every time I'm out of town. He was used to seeing her around, so he thought maybe I had asked her to do something there. 2 weeks later she texted and needed relationship advice, and acted like since we were so close it should not be a big deal. I told her what my basement renter said. I was super pissed at this point. She became very offended and said it was nobody else's business and I should not have told anybody about it. I told her our friendship was definitely over and to not contact me again. I told her that I was removing myself from toxic people. Later, I was talking to one of my other friends, also a client, about it, and they kind of made me feel that I was not a very good friend because I needed to have a talk with her and forgive her. They said that people make mistakes, I need to be forgiven and she should get another chance. Since she was exhausting me anyway, I just can't bring myself to want to have anything to do with her. Aita. P.S. She did not have a key. I did not always lock my back garage door. Lesson learned. Edited to fix some typos and add information. Stories number 15. How can I make sure I'm a great date tomorrow? Hi all, I'm a single dad in my mid-30s, and after my marriage ended last year I'm dipping my toe back into dating, via the apps, with a coffee shop date tomorrow. I'm normally very chatty, ask lots of questions, and over the last 5 years I've become much more confident and extroverted. But I'm suddenly so nervous. The lady is really interesting and funny and beautiful, she's mid-30s single parent too, so similar situations, but really worried my mind will go blank, or I'll ask too many questions like an interview, or my ex will walk in or something. Any tips, advice? Any suggested topics to chat about? Have I made a mistake by doing a coffee date and not an activity? Update. Thanks all. It went great. At the end she asked about a second date, which I just booked. We chatted about a fun idea for a third too. I loved listening to her talk. She seems genuine and sharp and kind, and she's bloody gorgeous and well out of my league. She's a rocket. Comments. Commenter 1. Perfect timing, as you'll no doubt have a good supply of Lynx Africa after Christmas. Try not to overthink it, mate, just go there and be yourself. There's no point doing anything else as in the long run you'll be yourself anyway, smiley face. Have fun, worst case it's something to do in a chat, best case you get on well and it goes further. Commenter 2. Just go there and be yourself. A lot of people seem to forget that if you want a good relationship, they need to be compatible with you, and vice versa, and the only way to do that effectively is to be yourself. If you meet someone who is compatible with you when you are being yourself, you will hit it off fine. Commenter 3. Don't talk about your ex unless asked. Cut your nails, no one likes sharp nails when they're getting fingered behind the bins. Commenter 4. Cut nails the day before too, not day of. Commenter 5. Sheesh, invest 50p in an emery board, my dude. Give yourself a little more nail cutting flexibility. Update. Hey folks. So a week or so ago I posted and had a lot of great lovely funny weird responses from you all. Just wanted to give an update. So date 1 went really well. I was predictably nervous as shit and sort of in awe of her in person, so I definitely didn't take in everything she said. It was a bit like trying to hear someone while also staring into the evening sun and while white noise blared really loud in your ears, you know. Lovely, but hard to take stuff in. But it was a very cute coffee date and I managed to remain coherent enough to decide date 2. We planned date 2, dinner and wine, but then before that booking came around we snuck in a walk the day before, so date 3 came before date 2, real cute stuff. Dinner and wine was amazing, stayed till the restaurant closed, then chatted and such all night. Just got home. She's a bit of a delight. Super lush. What a time to be alive. Just wanted to share that wholesomeness with you this morning Reddit. I'll probably leave it there unless anything significant happens in the future. Have just the most incredible Sunday internet friends. Comments. Commenter 1. Really pleased for you. Reply, thank you. I'm pretty flipping ecstatic too. Exhausted though grinning face with sweat and now need to parent on very little sleep, terrible instant coffee in glowing vibes. Commenter 2. I am glad it was a nice time, smiley face. I wish you all the best in this budding romance. Commenter 3. Back in the seas is back in the game. Stories number 16. Caught a guy in my GF bed last night, 26F, 24M. So last night me and my girlfriend was in a bit of an argument that she initiated and then after I just bit my tongue and apologized to her. She completely ignored the apology and went on about something else. The argument was that I didn't feel comfortable with her hanging out with this guy in her room alone especially after he made some uncomfortable verbal advances to her. She then later the night told me she understood and she wouldn't have him in her room alone anymore. But when she went MIA for 2 hours I got a little curious and something deep inside me kept telling me to go over to her house. Like an echoing voice in the back of my head saying go to her house. So I eventually went over to her house after I got off my second job and as I pulled in she texted saying she's been reading a book. I text her regularly like okay that's cool I hope you're enjoying the book. Right after I sent that last text I walk into her room and right there I see this guy we just had this discussion about laid up in her bed. She tried saying that his ribs were broken and he needed help. But she's not a nurse nor a doctor. So I'm like what the fuck? Why would your friends drop him off at your house? Why not take him to the hospital? He could have internal bleeding of something along the lines. So I'm obviously upset and I'm losing my mind. He starts talking shit to me and then I end up threatening him, but I didn't hurt anyone. She just kept saying he can't afford the hospital but I mean man you're gonna have to go to the hospital over some broken ribs eventually lol. So this was all suspicious from the jump especially after she just told me she wouldn't have this guy in her room alone anymore. She then texted me and said that she knows she fucked up for not telling me but she wasn't sorry for it. So I broke up with her right then and there. Mind you, she has a habit of lying to me about various things and each time I've broken up with her for something along the lines she's crawled back to me begging for me back and practically acting like she's changed. But at this point, I'm so mentally and emotionally exhausted drained I don't even want to eat or work. I have only been eating once a day for the last month because the deep depression she's caused me. How do I move on and heal? TDLR, I caught my girlfriend with a guy in her bed after she told me she wouldn't have him over anymore after he's made uncomfortable verbal advances to her. Stories number 17. As a man I was taught how to treat women, I was never taught how a woman should treat me. Is this normal? I know this is crazy, but damn. I had to learn basic shit about respect, reciprocation and basic kindness from coworkers. I was never taught what disrespect was from women. I kinda stupidly fell in love with my married coworker then gave up on love as for the last 10 years it's not worth it. I've been rejected, used, verbally abused, told multiple times I'm not good enough and I'm just done with women. I'd rather die alone at this point. So much pain for nothing. I had a coworker she told me as someone who knew her husband since grade school and were married for 10 years and has 3 kids it's not worth it. Stories number 18. As a Russian, reaction of Americans to Greenland situation is funny and sad at the same time. I read comments from Americans that can be summarized as, I didn't vote for this, or I'm so afraid he will do it, or I am so ashamed for this country, and I can't help but remember the start of the war and how I, personally, lost many international friends and was driven off platforms for trying to explain to people that I didn't actively choose Putin, he was elected before I was born, and every election since I couldn't even take part in. It all fell on deaf ears, and was hard to get through in the moment, coupled with complete change of the way we do business. I lost my job LMAO, and loss of connection with many relatives who managed to escape beforehand. So, seeing the support Americans get on this matter, although I don't believe that he will actually do that, feels bittersweet. On another note, I feel like Americans can take a tip or two from Russians on how to keep being sane and stable in an oligarchy and during a hypocritical war, which you can't even call a war, but as always, it's hard to communicate with Americans on this matter. Stories number 19. My girlfriend's parents surprised me with a visit overseas. I'm considering breaking up with her. Title: Aita for being upset my girlfriend put an air tag on my motorcycle to prove a point to her mom. I've never made a Reddit post on this sub before, but I read posts from here occasionally. I am going to make my submission as concise as possible, but I'm not a great storyteller and this whole thing is a little more nuanced than my shitty ability to articulate it. I'm 27M and my girlfriend is 33F. Although our relationship started out very intense and unpredictable, we quickly developed strong feelings and have been together for 3 years. Despite being together that long, I just met my girlfriend's parents for the first time a few weeks ago. She is an only child and said she didn't want to introduce anyone she dated to her parents unless she knew this was the person she wanted to marry. Her parents also live abroad and due to COVID and her dad's health problems, they didn't visit her for a while. She usually went to visit them. It was a big step for her to tell me she wanted me to meet them and I did my best to make a good impression. I was raised by my grandmother. When she passed, my older sister took over caring for me. My girlfriend has had a stable upbringing. Her parents are wealthy and she's led a privileged life. We don't have the same life experiences and it was never a problem until I met her parents. If anything, for some reason the differences between us added to our relationship in ways. Unfortunately, I got the impression her parents were scrutinizing every aspect of my life over the dinner we had on our first meeting, and this included my family. I stayed true to myself and maintained my confidence but left the interaction feeling like I bombed a test. My girlfriend reassured me they liked me, but her mood over the few days afterward suggested otherwise. I called her out on it and pressed her for an explanation. I learned she's been upset because of a fight she had with her mother following the dinner. Her mother thinks I'm just having fun with her daughter, that I will get bored and leave her and she's too old to be wasting time with me. Apparently, her mother got this impression entirely from the way I look, and this judgment about me trumps anything else I shared about myself. My girlfriend and I decided to have me spend more time with her family over the coming holidays, so I have been going over every day and involving myself in shopping trips etc. with my girlfriend and her mom, hoping that she would get to know me and overcome whatever skepticism she has. I even spent hours getting a crash course in a strategy board game her dad plays and started playing with him to continue learning it as a form of bonding. Despite feeling like I won her dad over, I felt like her mom was constantly evaluating my loyalty in subtle, unrealistic ways. Examples include overanalyzing how I interact with others in public, reading too much into the way I smile, and the way I show affection toward my girlfriend. According to my girlfriend's mom, the fact that I have a motorcycle makes me extra slutty. And that's how this escalated. My sister and I have an 18-year-old dog. It's been a tough few months for him. I think he's approaching the end. For that reason, usually one of us is always with him. He's on the smaller side, so he's easy to bring along anywhere. I've had to leave to give medicine to my dog at certain times of the day because he's on a schedule, and I guess my girlfriend's mom found even this to be suspicious. The other day I left my girlfriend and her family to go give my dog his medicine, and on my way there my phone alerted that an AirTag was traveling with me. When I reached my place, I searched all my pockets and stuff and eventually found it on the motorcycle itself. It was connected to my girlfriend's mom's number. I told my girlfriend and my girlfriend said she put her mom's AirTag on my bike to prove to her mom that I was not lying about where I was going. I get that she was trying to defend me, but I feel angry at her. It's hard to articulate, but ever since I met my girlfriend's family, microaggressions by her mom are really getting to me and it's hard to separate them from my girlfriend. Hoping I'm just overstimulated by all this and things will get better after Christmas is over. I'm not sure if I'm an for being cold toward my girlfriend about the AirTag though. But it's a frustration that I'm having trouble letting go of. Sum of comments. Commenter: the most foundational part of a relationship is the trust between two people. The fact that she didn't tell you about it sounds like she also wanted to see what you were doing, because if she trusted you she should have defended you. Parents are and have been skeptical since the first cave person brought another back to their parents. It's up to her and you to convince them otherwise. You seem to have done a lot, so it may just come down to direct face-to-face conversations with the 3 or 4 of you to really hammer this home. Otherwise, who knows what else will be done next to test your loyalty. Reply: that's what I've been struggling with. The fact that she didn't let me in on her plan makes me wonder if she wanted to test me too. Even if that's not the case, the whole approach has pissed me off. Commenter: info: if one of you is always with the dog, why did you have to leave to give him his medication? Reply: so this was on my watch. He just had a nasogastric tube put in and it's been more comfortable for him to stay at home versus me taking him out with me in the cold. The distance between my place and my girlfriend's is very short. Original post. I'm 28 and my girlfriend is 33F. We've been together for a few years and have discussed getting married. Unfortunately, ever since I met her parents last year, their behavior, specifically her mom, has made it difficult for me to see a future anymore. Her mom mistrusts me and it's all based on superficial impressions and assumptions about who she thinks I am. I have tried to show her parents patience and I've been extremely respectful, giving them opportunities to get to know me and overcome their prejudices. Everything came to a head when I went to visit my home country. I have a place here and I came to see a friend get married. Her parents showed up unannounced and requested a ride from the airport. I immediately called my girlfriend despite the time difference because I was in shock. She claimed she had no idea about their plans. They claim it was all impromptu, cheap flight, last minute, etc. I just don't buy it. Anyway, I picked them up and they're currently staying with me in my apartment. They've got no itinerary but want me to arrange them to see XYZ and of course they need me as translator. Everything is apparently too foreign to them, they're lost without me. They refuse to go anywhere without me as an escort. My girlfriend is apologetic but I just don't see her supporting me in dealing with her parents, especially her mom, who is the instigator. The dad has no backbone, is forced to follow her. I posted another issue a while back too. My girlfriend doesn't support me in setting boundaries, so as her partner I fall into a rock and a hard place type situation. I can't tell if I'm being cold and uninviting, or if these people are crazy and my girlfriend is so afraid of them she didn't even warn me about something like this. I feel like I can handle anything if she's on my side, but it doesn't feel like she is. Maybe I can't be with someone like that. Commenter, whoa, that's a lot to handle. It's okay to feel upset that your girlfriend didn't warn you. Talk to her honestly about how you feel and that you need her support with her parents. Don't be afraid to set boundaries with them, even if it's hard. If she can't back you up, you might need to rethink things. You deserve a partner who's on your team. Reply, that's exactly it. I need us to be a team. I keep trying to express to her this won't work if we're not a team. Top comment on post. Commenter, your GF put an air tag on your motorbike last month to prove a point to her mother. I think it's time to either accept your fate or move on and enjoy some freedom. Update post. I just wanted to clarify some things. I only met my girlfriend's parents for the first time late November 2024. The reason I picked them up from the airport instead of abandoning them or telling them to go find a hotel, etc., was out of respect for my girlfriend and the relationship I want, to have with her and her parents. After the first meeting I had with her parents, in late November that I shared in my first post, I confronted my girlfriend. She apologized and eventually her mother did too. Basically, I thought we were past whatever suspicions and mistrust her mother had about me. Then this happened. In the last few days, since this began, I have realized some things about my relationship. My girlfriend has been trying to play both sides. She'll tell me one thing and her parents another thing. She's been hiding some deep trust issues about me and insecurities about our relationship, mostly her fears about me being unfaithful. I want to be clear that these fears are not because of anything that I've done, it's just how she feels. She used her parents to convince me it wasn't her craziness and I am pretty sure she told her mom how she felt and her mom was willing to be in on it. I broke up with my girlfriend and asked her parents to leave. The friend's wedding I went to hit different because of that, but it also made me realize how unhealthy and toxic my relationship was. I haven't disclosed a lot but I think I was in an abusive relationship. I am still struggling to accept that. And there is some shame creeping up that I don't understand. Why is it there? Anyway, thanks for all the messages. Sorry my writing skills aren't that great. I'm so drained from this situation, I feel like I need to sleep for a month. I don't even feel like writing about any of this, but I felt I owed you the conclusion. Sum of comments. Commenter, please do not fold and take that woman back, under any circumstance. It sucks, but it is better to be finished with it all. Best of luck, OP. Reply, promise that's not happening. The breakup wasn't smooth, and she became extremely verbally aggressive. She said a lot of things that can never be unsaid. No matter what happens now, and in spite of all the threats she's been making, there's no hope for reconciliation. I know when I get back it's going to be crazy. I'm not looking forward to it. Editing this because I typoed. Commenter, did the parents leave peacefully, or did they attempt to somehow extend their stay? Reply, they were dumbfounded. I don't expect them to understand my feelings, so I said the least. I talked to her dad privately and let him know first to arrange a hotel accommodation. I put it on my ex-girlfriend to explain it to them. I told them they can contact her, but I am asking them to leave. Also worth mentioning because it makes me angry, I wasn't able to express it in my previous post due to being in shock and distracted by other issues, but her parents have been to my country several times. Her mom has gotten tons of small procedures and treatments in my country, so I'm not sure why all of a sudden they needed me as an escort. It seemed like she was trying to say she only comes to my country for her treatments but doesn't give a shit about anything else, so that's why she's unfamiliar. These people live in another world. I always feel like I'm going a little bit insane having any form of conversation with them. Commenter, sounds like that trip was her parents checking up on him for her because of her insecurities. Glad he bailed on that shit. Reply, it was definitely to investigate me. I don't think I'll ever know what my ex-girlfriend and her mom were suspicious about. Did they think I'm secretly married or living some kind of a second life? I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to look into my employment history, etc. I feel so stupid for the kindness I extended to them. I tried to be understanding of every transgression and let my girlfriend gaslight me into thinking I was just misunderstanding things because I didn't have parents growing up. New update post. To those who were worried my ex-girlfriend would trash my place, nothing like that happened. I talked to her in person. She said I was misunderstanding everything. She began to cry, which was difficult for me. There was a moment where I wanted to forget all of it so I could hug her. I held back because something felt different. She asked me if I hate her. Obviously, I don't. I said I am tired of feeling like the person I love is not who I thought they were. Ever since she introduced me to her parents, and close friends circle, which I didn't talk about, I have seen a side of her I don't recognize. After meeting her parents for the first time and the strange behavior started to add up, I gave her an opportunity to come clean. I asked her to tell me everything. I told her I can't help you if you leave me in the dark. I even warned her if I find out later, it's over. Because of the way she chose to answer me during this conversation, every action I took, I held back. All she had to do was tell me what was going on. I would have helped her take on everything. Instead, she chose to trick me in cruel ways while acting helpless and innocent when I questioned her about it. I shielded her all this time. She manipulated everyone around her, including me. Everything is confusing now. I look back at all of our time together and feel crazy. I can't differentiate anymore, her true feelings about anything. She tried to explain the stress of pleasing her friends and family made her act this way, but she doesn't share their views or doubts about me. She said she's never loved anyone the way she loves me and her feelings scare her. I wish she would just admit she had too much fucking pride. I understand she is the way she is probably due to how she was raised. But some of the things she has said and done are unforgivable. The conversation went on, but everything was still other people's fault. She wasn't taking any accountability, so I stood by my decision to stay broken up. To be honest, by hesitating for even that singular moment when I wanted to hold her, she showed me the side of her that comes out when she doesn't get her way. For the first time, I felt like what I was seeing is actually her true self. We were having this conversation while walking outside. We had stopped walking and she was wiping her tears. When she realized I wasn't going to comfort her, she started to say degrading things about me. She also brought it up again that my life is easier than hers because I grew up with no parents. This comment was so fucked up it made me laugh. I told her she's so privileged she has no idea what it even means to have a hard life. Because I laughed, I could tell she wanted to throw her coffee at me, she didn't. Instead, she said some more things about me and I realized I don't care anymore because I don't even recognize this woman who is yapping in front of me. Since then, she has emailed me an Excel spreadsheet of all the money I owe. The things she has itemized are things like, all the time she upgraded me on a flight, luxury gifts she has bought me on birthdays, Christmas, etc. She also included ridiculous things like estimated cost of gas X amount of times when she was my designated driver, and pregnancy tests. I think she added this just to mess with me. I'm not going to bother explaining my contributions. This email made me sick. I packed her things that were in my apartment. I had a friend come over when she came to collect them. She didn't know this. I answered the door and she pushed against me and tried to initiate. I didn't return her advance and she got angry and scratched me. I think maybe she was trying to slap me but couldn't reach. I'm not really sure because it happened too fast and I restrained her. My friend came out and began calling her on it. He made a show of taking a video and threatened her with assault. I think it embarrassed her, so she probably won't do something like this again. The only downside to his presence was I think she will try to convince herself I rejected her in that moment because he was there. For people asking about my dog. He's happy and comfortable, and still alive. He eats well unlike his age. My priorities are to improve the quality of his life, not unnecessarily prolong it. But every night I check on him before I fall asleep. And every morning I wake up with this feeling of dread. He has Cushing's disease and chronic pancreatitis. He is high risk for developing cancer. The medication routine is a bit complex, but I am learning everything I can for him. Take care of your pets and check them often for lumps. A lot of animals hide their pain. I guess we have that in common. Maybe I shouldn't have ended the post like this. Anyway, I'm really okay. I posted this update because I got a lot of messages and it's easier than answering them separately. In case I don't feel like answering comments, I will just leave this here. There is a lot I haven't shared. There is a lot I haven't even admit to myself yet. I am not saying I am perfect. It's not about being right or wrong anymore. I have a lot of flaws too. I'm sure I handled some things poorly and I know I was a fool. I also still experience moments where my heart aches and I question if I'm wrong about everything, wanting to just get back together. Hopefully this will get easier with time anyway. Writing here counts as therapy, right? I'm going to go drink a cold beer in the shower. Commenter, those are gifts, you don't owe her money. Reply, I won't be paying her. She's just playing games. Stories number 20. Aita for just deciding not to travel because my wife made reservations for Disney again. My wife Jess and I have been married for the past 13 years. We're both 39. After experiencing financial hardship throughout our 20s and early 30s, Jess and I are now fortunate enough to have the means to travel once or twice a year. The only problem is that Jess literally only wants to go to Disney World. We have been to Disney 9 times now, and every vacation we have ever taken together was to go there, including our honeymoon. So we go, we eat the Mickey Mouse ice cream, we wear the mouse ears, we stay in the official hotels, we see the characters, we ride the rides, we take the pictures in front of Cinderella's castle, and we come home. Every trip. I'm honestly beyond sick of Disney, and I never really liked going in the first place. Jess knows this, but she has no concept of travel beyond Disney. We're currently planning a trip for April, and Jess, as usual, said that we can just go to Disney. I explained that it sounds fun, but hey, why don't we go somewhere like Hawaii this time? Jess was confused. She asked why we would go to Hawaii. I responded that we could enjoy the spas and go to the beach. Jess mumbled a half-hearted answer and walked away. A few days later, she approached me, saying that she made hotel reservations for Hawaii. At first, I was excited because although she did so without consulting me, it seemed like she was really listening. But then when she showed me the hotel she booked, I found she had made reservations for Aulani, the Disney resort in Hawaii. Frustrated, I told her that I'm honestly tired of Disney, and that I just want to have a different experience this time. She told me that she was compromising with me, and that I should be appreciative for the time she spent. I asked her if she was willing to consider anything other than Disney for our trip, and she said no. At this point, I said that I wasn't going. Now she's furious. She cancelled the reservation she made, and now she's looking for a friend to go to Disney World with again without me. Was I the asshole here for not trying to accommodate her request? Aita has no consensus bot, OOP received the majority of NTAs and few others. Top comments. Commenter 1, how the fuck did this go on for 9 trips without you saying something? I'd have gone mad after going a second time. Commenter 2, FFS, does she realize there's a whole non-Disney World out there? And it's much less expensive with shorter lines. Commenter 3, however, you should also consider being more truthful with your wife. If you can't even be truthful to your wife, who can you be truthful with? It obviously did not sound fun at all to you, so just be clear on that. In fact, the second time she booked the Disney trip you should have been honest with her and suggested something else. Commenter 4, at 39, it might be time to consider broadening her horizons and embracing more of what the world has to offer. Life is too short to be spent solely between home and Disney when there's so much out there waiting to be explored. Update. About a week ago, I made a post about an argument my wife Jess and I had. The TLDR version of it is Jess loves going to Disney World, and we have gone there for literally every trip during our marriage, which is now at an impressive 9 times. When I asked Jess if we could go somewhere like Hawaii, she suggested Aulani, the Disney resort, and I dismissed the idea immediately. This upset Jess. Here's the update. I screwed up. I know most people were giving me the NTA judgment, but Jess actually showed a great deal of openness to my idea. She took initiative by reserving the hotel because she wanted me to be happy. When I said, nope, no Disney, she felt that I hadn't put any effort into taking her feelings into consideration. And she was completely right. I hadn't. It was, in a twisted way, my form of revenge for dragging me to Disney World all those times. In the last post, some people commented about how Aulani barely even looks like a Disney resort at all. This is something I should have researched myself before I threw the gauntlet down with Jess. When I looked into it, it looks like a run-of-the-mill Hawaiian resort. In my defense, going to Disney World 9 times has kind of made me sensitive, and I'm fairly sure that on a Rorschach test I'd see nothing but mouse ears at this point, but I really should not have jumped to conclusions. A day after I made the post, I approached Jess and apologized. I was wrong. Yes, she might be a Disney adult, but aside from always wanting to go to their theme parks, she's never obnoxious about it. I said I was sorry, and asked for permission to reserve the hotel again. And Jess responded that she'd love to go to Alani with me. When I told her that it's not really all that Disney, Jess said, "Of course I knew that. I wanted to go because my sister said it was beautiful." I'm a moron. Jess and I have replanned our vacation, and we're super excited to be going now. I came to this realization because a lot people pointed out some things I should have figured out myself. Thank you. Comments. Commenter 1, man, did you get gaslight 9 fucking vacations in a row to Disney? Did she take your feelings into account any of those 9 times? Nope. Commenter 2, what do you mean she's never been obnoxious about it? She dragged you to Disney 9 times in your marriage, ignoring your communicating that you wanted to go somewhere else. When you put your foot down, she scheduled 10th Disney vacation, just at a different Disney location. Is this even OP? Did she tie you up and gag you with Mickey Mouse ears, typing on your account? Because her behavior is not okay, and a 10th Disney trip when you said no more Disney is zero compromise on her part. Do you need to be extracted? Commenter 3, this update actually makes me sad. I'm sure Alani is lovely. But Jess still is not considering your feelings. And you still aren't standing up for yourself. You need to communicate. Respectfully, calmly, and like adults. Maybe this is a good bridge to less Disney-centric vacations, maybe not. But unless you communicate your frustrations, you're going to be going to something Disney-themed next time, too. Final update, I decided not to travel because my wife made reservations for Disney again. Hi again everybody. This situation all started because my wife Jess and I had an argument about going to Disney World on vacation again. I didn't want to go because we had already been 9 times, and when I suggested Hawaii, Jess made reservations for Alani, which is a Disney-owned resort. I immediately rejected this idea, mistakenly believing it was just another Disney vacation. Eventually, I realized that I was wrong, and that Alani was a perfectly fine compromise. Unfortunately, we will not be going to Alani for our upcoming vacation. A couple of days after Christmas, Jess had a minor car accident. She mistook drive for reverse and backed into our garage door. When I heard the loud bang, I ran outside, and I found Jess holding her neck in the car. I immediately drove her to the hospital, where she got x-rays done. She seemed fine, but the doctor said that based on her symptoms, headache, neck pain, numbness in her fingers, she could have whiplash. Jess and I figured that she would be fine in a couple of days, but almost 2 weeks later, she is still complaining about back pain. Yesterday, she approached me, saying that she wasn't confident she could go to Hawaii in a few months. I asked what she wanted to do, and while apologizing profusely, she asked me if we could postpone that trip. I responded that she had absolutely nothing to apologize for. After that, she said that she felt bad about not being able to go to Hawaii, but she might be able to make it to Disney World. While I didn't understand at first, she told me that it has very high accessibility and, in a worst-case scenario, ECV rentals. She doubts that will be necessary, but assured me that we could take it easy there. I know that this isn't the conclusion people here wanted, and it's certainly not what I wanted to do with my next vacation, but Jess's health has to come first here. We've made our reservations. It's not where I want to go, but Jess is super happy right now, and that's what matters most to me. Thank you all for your input. Comments. Commenter 1, a resort is infinitely more relaxing and easier than Disney even for non-injured people. I think you got played, buddy. Disney adults be scheming. Commenter 2, damn, she's good. A master manipulator. Time to get out, bro, or you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. Commenter 3, she literally did that on purpose, LMAO. You keep getting sucked into it and you will always get sucked into it because you have no backbone. Good luck with the rest of your life. New up.